This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate fourth part of What If Naruto Became God of Wind. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Invoking the world. Toad's domain Naruto trailed behind Elder Toad Fukasaku as he entered an enormous cave. The cave's interior was one unusual room with two smaller seats on either side of a throne seat in the middle. Fukasaku took one of the two seats. His wife, or perhaps another small toad similar to him, had already taken the other. Naruto noticed a larger toad in the center, most likely the great elder sage who would be revealing his fate to him. Naruto-chan, here is my wife Shima, the other one of the two elder sages of Mount Myoboku. In the center is our great elder sage, the oldest and wisest of us all and also the one who can read your future, announced Fukasaku. It is a great honor to be introduced to you all, but I came here in order to retrieve the key to the Hake no Fuin Shiki that my father entrusted to you. Fukasaku Sama said that I needed to speak with the great elder sage first. Naruto stated in a formal manner. The great sage said, it's nice to see you again. Who are you again? Naruto was unable to speak. This is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, great elder. You said that he would visit us and that's why I brought him here in the first place. Fukasaku replied. So this is Jiraiya's latest disciple, he really looks like the last one you brought here before him. Shima continued. Oh Uzumaki Naruto, yes, I remember now. I have seen a vision about you, are you ready for it? Asked the great elder. Naruto answered, I am ready, please tell me what you saw. In my vision, I see you fighting in a great battle. The vision isn't clear though, your body is covered by a thick mist and I can't say who your enemy is, all I can see are his eyes, they hold great powers. At the end of the war, you will be given a choice. From your answer the fate of the world will depend, if you chose wrong the world will come to an end. The great elder went on to stun everyone on the floor. I see, that's a lot to take in. From my actions, the world can either be saved or come to an end. Did you see anything else in your vision, great elder? Replied Naruto. Yes, during your journey you will meet new friends. I see you training with an octopus and a cat, they will help you in your future endeavors. I also saw you opening the seal holding back the powers of the fox, was the response of the sage. Meeting an octopus and a cat, that's quite mysterious even for you. So you saw me opening the seal, does that mean you will give me the key then? Replied Naruto. Geratora, come in here. My vision is absolutely clear on this, you will store the key in him, the elder replied. The moment the great sage called for him, another toad, Geratora, immediately materialized. Naruto had previously encountered Geratora when he was training with Jiraiya. That was prior to Naruto having the chakra converting seal, when the pervert was attempting to assist him in using Yuki. Naruto inquired, so you had the key, how are we doing this? The scroll toad unrolled the scroll he was holding as he opened his body. There was a very intricate seal with a square mark in the middle inside. The sight caused Naruto's eyes to widen. He had no idea that the key was actually another Fuinjutsu scroll. You have to put your hand right here inside the square mark and channel chakra through it. Then I will store myself inside your body. You will be able to apply the key to your seal at the moment of your choice after this. The key has the power to weaken, strengthen or completely remove the seal, replied Geratora. The toad then gave Naruto the order to open his mouth and dove right in. Fukasaku delivered a perfectly timed kick, and Naruto nearly puked, but the storage operation worked. Now you have the means to tweak the seal as you see fit. I would wait a little bit more if I were you, before completely removing the seal. Think carefully about the location and choose some trustworthy allies to cover for you when you decide to do it, Fukasaku stated to him. As he walked out of the room, Naruto firmly said, thank you, old toad. You don't need to worry about that, I will remember your words. Outside, his dragon Hirayu was waiting for him, prepared to go. Naruto mounted the fire dragon and, after bidding the toads farewell, they took off again, heading back toward the dragon's realm. The Hokage office in Konoha Tsunade was in her office right now, thinking about the most recent mishap her favorite blonde relative had brought about. The mysterious disappearance of Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto from Konoha's face had been going on for a week. There was no sign of him for Tsunade and Shizune, the only two individuals permitted entry into the less guarded section of the Namikaze compound. A plain note in the living room said he was off to training and would return as soon as possible. The Namikaze clan seat was empty during yesterday's weekly council meeting, and everyone noticed his absence right away. She told them that he couldn't join them that day due to internal family matters because she couldn't lie about sending him on a mission since the council had access to the mission reports. It was advantageous for Konoha's clan to have this privilege because it meant that no one could inquire about personal affairs among the powerful clans represented on the council. Though Naruto had to return before the next council meeting, the ruse would not last for long, and they would begin to suspect him. Neither Danzo nor the other civilian members of the council would pass up the opportunity to have him kicked off the council or, worse, labeled a missing ninja. Tsunade noticed during the discussion regarding the missing clan head of Namikaze that her sensei appeared to have some knowledge of the matter. Tsunade recognized the old man's smile and assumed the professor was aware of Naruto's whereabouts. It was fortunate in that Naruto was probably safe wherever he was if the Sandaime were aware of his whereabouts and chose not to raise any issues about it. Tsunade, however, was also a little offended because she felt that Naruto should have informed her about his unexpected trip as a relative and because she was a Hokage and had a right to know such information. Ground Training 7 Haruno Sakura had a very relaxing day since her shift at the hospital had ended and she didn't have anything else to do. The disciple of Tsunade made the decision to train at the same training facility as her former team, 7. The pink-haired Shunin chose to train first, using the techniques she had learned from Tsunade in taijutsu. She had been very serious about her training ever since Uchiha Sasuke left the Leaf. She trained under the greatest medic Kunoichi in the elemental nations for 3 years, and after her master and fellow pupil Shizune, she became one of the best. She consistently gave the same false answer when asked what drove her to get stronger. It was to support Konoha and its citizens. But she always knew, deep down, why she was concentrating so much on her training. At last, she realized that she needed to possess power, the quality the Uchiha heir seeks in a woman, if she hoped to stand a chance with him. She spent the better part of the afternoon working out, only stopping briefly to avoid overtaxing her body. Just as she was about to head back to her house for the day, she noticed a hawk land in front of her. She closed the distance between them and studied the bird, intrigued by its seemingly fearless demeanor. Its left leg held a small message that was rolled up and fastened. The hawk withdrew itself after she unfolded the paper, and as she perused the contents, her eyes expanded in surprise. "Sakura, I must talk to you. Come over here tonight. As soon as you leave the village, I'll locate you. When you finish reading the paper, channel chakra into it. From Sasuke Uchiha." Sakura was astounded by what she was holding, and she felt compelled to show Tsunade the document immediately at the Hokage office out of loyalty to her master and conscience. But her heart told her to follow the message's instructions and destroy any proof of its presence. She stood there for a considerable amount of time, lost in contemplation. With love in her eyes, she imagined herself at the academy, gazing at the final Uchiha. She observed the effort she put in under Tsunade's guidance as well as how satisfying it was to have someone at last have faith in her. Sakura's hand holding the piece of paper with Sasuke's message suddenly glowed blue as she eventually emerged from her trance, and the paper vanished in a small flame. She then proceeded slowly in the direction of the gates. That evening, Haruno Sakura soundly defeated the 2 Chunin manning the main gate and vanished into the night, taking with him another of Tsunade's priceless people and the Leaf's most promising medic, Kunoichi. Unknown place the Akatsuki group was reuniting in their customary setting, a dimly lit cave where each member uses a long-range communication jutsu. But this time the statue of Geto Mazo was not visible. "Good, everyone is here. Let's begin the meeting then. Zetsu, make your report," the leader responded. "I have continued my spying mission since the last time we all met, as ordered. The remaining targets are the Ichibi, Nibi, Hachibi and Kyubi. Ichibi and Kyubi are well aware of our intentions in capturing them and they have not appeared without a good protection insurance ever since. Our best chance for now is to target the other 2, the Nibi and Hachibi, according to Zetsu." Uchiha Itachi said in his monotonous voice as usual. "Knowing the Leaf, they most likely tried to warn Kumo about us, but the Raikage is a prudent and stubborn man. They will not act based on some info sent to them by their old enemy. It's a shame we never managed to get a spy inside Kumo. They are highly suspicious of foreigners and watch their borders tightly. Infiltration won't work easily against them, but it's still the best option we have so far," replied the leader. Hidan asked, "Who's going this time?" with excitement. The leader asked, "Before that, do you have anything else to report, Zetsu?" The spy replied, "Yeah, it appears our former member Orochimaru is dead." "Who did it?" Uchiha Itachi inquired right away. "It seems your brother managed to surprise the snake. He even turned Kabuto against his former master. Together they plotted Sasuke's takeover of Otogakure, eliminating any obstacle in their path before they finally attacked Orochimaru," replied Zetsu. "So that slithering freak finally died. A shame really, I wanted to show him who the real immortal is," Hidan laughed. The leader questioned, "What of his ring? Neither Kabuto nor Sasuke have been seen wearing it. It seems they don't know its worth or what it really does. It is most likely still inside Orochimaru's former room, replied Zetsu. Very well, I have decided of a strategy to follow for the next few weeks. I will give you all your assignments and team placements, so listen well. I don't wish to repeat myself. The leader began. Hidan, Kakuzu and Kisame will go to Kumo and capture the Nibi and Hachibi. It is isolated from the rest of the world, and unlike Konoha or Suna, they aren't really expecting us to make a move against them. Both targets have complete control of their tailed beast. Consequently, your mission will require power. That's why I chose these members. He began by explaining. During that time, Itachi, Deidara and Tobi will go to Oto and take back Orochimaru's ring. Same as Kumo. With Orochimaru's death, no one in their group will expect us to go against them, and more importantly, they don't know that we're after the ring. Zetsu with his special ability will assist both groups in information gathering and infiltration. That will be all. Dismissed, the leader said. And with that, every person in the group vanished into the night. To put it mildly, the upcoming few weeks will be eventful. Dragon's Realm in Summoning World. The young head of the Namikaze clan was still training on the top mountain in the Dragon's Realm, totally unaware of the schemes, plans, and intrigues occurring in the elemental nations at that very moment. Even though it was getting dark outside, the blonde continued to go on without much difficulty. He was going to accomplish his goals, even in the dark. He appeared to have his dragon sight activated, giving him perfect night vision. There was yet another blinding flash and wind wave that shook the entire region, probably keeping every dragon awake. Though none of them would have the audacity to interfere with their summoner. Ruo, the Dragon King, was watching over the young sage's instruction with patience. Abruptly, Naruto was seen hurtling backwards before colliding with a hard rock. He slowly got back up on his feet and swore at something. The blonde yelled to no one in particular, "Damn it, I now have enough chakra to perform the final level of my bloodline, but the control to achieve it is too damn high. You have to calm yourself down, Naru.kun. With the modifications you made to the seal, you can now call forth all 9 taels worth of my Yuki. It is the double of what you are used to wield, so it is perfectly normal that you need to refine your control a little bit more in order to open the final door to our bloodline." Natsuki replied, attempting to assist him in regaining. Naruto answered, "I know, thank you for helping me, Na-chan." Naruto chose to use the key he had hidden inside of him to weaken the seal and enable him to use more Yuki as soon as he returned from the Toad's area. He took every safety measure, clearing as much space as possible and having Ruo watch over him in case he succumbed to his power. They made the cautious decision to move forward, only weakening the seal enough each time so that he could call forth one more tail at a time. Naruto finally reached the 9th and final tail after a week of training, but his control over it was still very weak. Natsuki informed him that he needed to simultaneously master the Hyakuren Jitoku no Kiwami and the Seiki Kanpatsu no Kiwami in order to advance to the final level of his bloodline. Naruto was able to launch each of his ultimate modes flawlessly on its own, but he couldn't seem to combine the two. He should have succeeded by unlocking the 9th tail because each mode requires 4 Yuki tails, whereas the original Muga no Kyochi only required 1 Yuki tail. Mathematically, there was nothing wrong. Naruto just needed to focus more. Otogakure. Principal Hub Sakura opened her eyes slowly and saw that she was in a different room. She knocked down the 2 guards stationed at the gates and left Konoha in the middle of the night, that being the last thing she remembered. After 15 minutes of running, she heard something behind her. As she turned around, she was hoping to see Sasuke, but all she saw before everything went dark was a smug Kabuto. She moved out of the strange room and down the hallway to a larger, more populated room. She saw Uchiha Sasuke, the object of her desires, right away. He saw her too as he spoke right away. "You're finally awake, Sakura. Come with me, there's someone I need you to heal." Kumogakure. Office for Raikage. Sitting behind his desk, the Yondaime Raikage, was going over his daily paperwork. His gaze landed on a scroll that Senju Tsunade, the Godem Hokage, had sent him a month prior. The message stated that there was a covert group called Akatsuki that was made up only of S-rank missing ninjas and that their mission was to capture and take the Biju from each of the 9 Jinchuriki. Tsunade requested a meeting with him and proposed a temporary alliance, information gathering, and joint training for the remaining Jinchuriki to deal with it. Beyond his rugged exterior, the Raikage was a very intelligent man and a very cautious man. Of course, he was aware of the Hyuga incident and the previous tensions between Kumo and Konoha. When he was younger, he even faced their well-known Yondaime Hokage, and Tsunade was someone he admired for her bravery and strength. Considering all those factors, he found it more difficult to decide whether or not to believe the scroll. Given that it was widely known that Killer B had perfected his Jinchuriki abilities, it was possible that Konoha was using this as a ploy to train their own Jinchuriki under his brother. However, he didn't think Tsunade would employ such a pathetic tactic, and he had to defend his brother's and adoptive daughter's lives, so the threat might actually exist. Would he risk everything by turning down Konoha's assistance, endangering his family, and for what purpose? Old resentments and unfounded fears. There wasn't much time for him to consider it because Akunoichi unexpectedly showed up in his office. Her dark eyes and long, straight, blonde hair were tightly wrapped in bandages. She had on a pair of black pants with a cloud-like pattern on them, a short, sleeved black and purple blouse, purple fingerless gloves, and a chain of white beads wrapped around her left hand. She also had sandals on, a kunai holster strapped to her right thigh, and the traditional Kumo forehead protector. She also had a red belt around her waist and bandages on her legs and arms. The Kunoichi was struggling to catch her breath, which was quite strange coming from someone who was known for having virtually limitless endurance. I glanced back at the scroll in front of him and realized instantly that something was wrong. Yugito, what happened? Why are you so tired and where is B? Weren't you supposed to train with him today? The Raikage inquired about it. Intruders Raikage. Sama, they were after B and me and he stayed there to hold them back while I escaped to warn you about them. Yugito replied. With dread for his brother, A asked, how many of them? Did you recognize any of them? Where are they right now? There were 3 of them, all wearing the same strange dark robes with red clouds. I didn't recognize any of them but they are very strong and they're most likely still fighting at the Valley of Clouds and Lightning. I ran straight to here from there, after B ordered to fall back and call for reinforcements, replied the brunette. Not caring that the window was still closed, the Raikage yelled as he leapt through it, very well, you stay here. I'll go help him. Anbu. Since the man was the fastest man on earth, one squad of Anbu chased after him as quickly as they could. Yugito yelled, but I left him there, I have to go back too. He stayed there all alone to save me. But the Raikage didn't falter or turn around. The Kunoichi was too exhausted to go home, so Yugito cursed her lack of strength and she curled up on the couch in the Raikage office. After that, Yugito closed her eyes and, overcome by chakra fatigue, slipped into a slow sleep. Lightning and the Valley of Clouds. All that A and his men saw upon their arrival was the chaos and devastation caused by the battle between Killer B and the unidentified invaders. The only thing left on the devastated battlefield was evidence of the Raikage's battle. He was unable to sense the chakra emanating from either his brother or the intruders. One of the ANBU's tracking specialists stated, Raikage. Sama, there are strong evidence of Killer B using his Yuki and his transformed state. Impossible. Who could be strong enough to push Killer B to release his Biju form? Only Raikage. Sama is powerful enough to match him in that state, replied another Anbu. A third, forensics specialist, said, I can see traces of high-level elemental jutsu from every element. There's also blood samples we can take back with us to Kumo for further analysis. As their sensor expert, the last Anbu on the squad reported, I can only detect our chakra signatures in the area. No trace of Killer B or the intruder's chakra in my range of detection. Gritting his teeth, the Raikage cursed himself for ignoring Konoha's warning note. He was aware that his pride might have caused his brother to die. He lacked the manpower to take on several shinobi with strength comparable to B's and Yugito's, as well as the means of tracking them outside of Lightning Country since they had probably already crossed the borders. Instructed his men to take every sample you need and prepare to go back. His operator asked, but what about you, brother Raikage, Sama? We do not have the means to follow after them right now. We have to regroup and think of a solid plan first, replied a frustrated A. A and his men left the scene and headed back to Kumo once the Anbu had gathered all they required. Rice Country. Wood's 3 members of Akatsuki stood on a cliff at the same moment, staring down at the entrance to Otogakure's main base. Deidara yelled, what's taking him so long, The always stoic Itachi answered, will you calm down, he should be back soon. The third member, hiding behind his orange mask, said, Toby is a good boy so he won't whine like Deidara, senpai. A fourth voice said, will you all shut up? I swear I could hear you from the other side of the base. When they all looked back, they saw Zetsu slowly emerge from the earth. Deidara asked, what do you have on them? I've marked the strategic positions you will need to bomb. The explosions should be enough to make several of their tunnel collapse and it will make it easier for Toby to make his way to the room we need to access, replied Zetsu. Orochimaru was really retarded to build his base like this. I will show you all why art is a bang, declared Deidara. I'll be the bait as planed. I'm pretty sure my foolish little brother will blindly follow me once I show my face at the entrance of his base, Itachi continued. You should all get in position. I'll deploy clones with you all to synchronize our actions. We should engage at dawn. It is the time their security is the most vulnerable, announced Zetsu. With a nod, each member went to their assigned spots with a clone. Otobikyu's principal hub wanting to see how his newest ally was doing, Sasuke headed to his base's medical wing. He saw Sakura at her desk as soon as he walked into the room. Sakura, please report. The Otokage said. The new head of Otobikyu's medical staff replied proudly, Sasuke-kun. I mean Otokage. Sama, I've started to administer the proper treatment to Subject X. His body is responding quite well and he should be completely healed in a week at most. What about Subject Y? How is the treatment going for him? Asked Sasuke. He is still in an artificial coma as you ordered, but why do you need to keep him in such a state or even alive for that matter? Asked the doctor with pink hair. He is of no consequence. His adoptive mother, though, holds great power. She will follow my orders as long as I keep her little pet alive, replied the assassin with a smirk. The naive Kunoichi said, I see. I wanted to ask you, will you go on a date with me? Sasuke was about to respond when there was a loud explosion that shook the whole base. The Otokage hurried out of the room and ordered, protect the patients and stay here. When Sasuke finally arrived at his control room, he noticed Kabuto looking terrified. Report, Kabuto, Sasuke exclaimed. We're under attack, Uchiha. Sama. There are at least 2 enemies, we managed to identify one of them though, said Kabuto. With a sour tone, the Otokage asked, well, who the hell dares to attack me? It's your brother, Uchiha Itachi has been spotted near the main entrance. We don't know who his accomplice is yet though, replied Kabuto. The news that his brother was still alive caused Sasuke's eyes to enlarge. He believed that the foolish blonde Uzumaki had already taken his life. His blood began to boil at this point, and he bolted in the direction of Itachi. You're in charge until I come back. Have our troops move out and engage my brother's accomplice outside the base, but whatever you do not get in my way, screamed the assailant as he left. Alongside Itachi, Sasuke saw his brother waiting for him outside the base as soon as he arrived at the entrance. With lightning chakra all over the Kusanagi in his hand, the younger Uchiha ran outside after activating his Sharingan. He heard another round of explosions as he approached his target halfway. After glancing back for a brief moment, Sasuke resumed his mission to murder his brother. When Itachi noticed Tobi stealthily entering the sound base, he remarked, You are still foolish as ever, my younger brother. Naidame Otokage roared, Shut up, you don't know anything about me. Itachi leapt back, easily dodging his brother's sword. Sasuke, of course, followed without giving his base or his men a second thought. Itachi responded, evading Sasuke's blows and retreating farther from the base. I know all about your little coup and the death of the Sannin Orochimaru at your hands. Sasuke smirked and said, So you know about Orochimaru. I killed one former member of your secret organization quite easily, just as I'm about to kill you. How naive of you, Sasuke. He was only interested in you because he couldn't get me. I am the reason he left the organization all those years ago. He lost a fight against me and vowed to get the body of a full-blooded Uchiha with a fully developed Sharingan after that, replied Itachi with his trademark calm tone. Sasuke exclaimed, It doesn't change the fact that I beat him. You'd be surprised at how effective our spying network is. I know all about Orochimaru's state after his fight with Naruto-kun. All you did was waiting for him to weaken enough to attack like the coward you are. I bet you even needed help considering the hickey he left on your shoulder. Itachi replied with a rare grin on his face. The younger Uchiha lost all self-control at that point and charged at his older brother without hesitation. Itachi, seeing no purpose in this battle, readied his Mangekyo Sharingan, but before he could unleash any jutsu, a Zetsu clone appeared. The operation is a success, follow the plan and meet us at the hideout, announced Zetsu. Itachi gave a nod before swiftly vanishing from Sasuke's line of sight. The younger brother had no time to retreat until he encountered Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. All he could hear before the world turned red was, Tsukiyomi. Alongside Deidara Kunoichi from Ato was currently engaged in combat with the insane bomber from Iwa. She had light blue hair, dark eyes, and fair skin. Her face was framed by long hair strands that were pulled back into a spiky ponytail. She was wearing a green dress with a long sleeve on the left and a short sleeve on the right, brown gloves, and a red turtleneck with a fluffy white collar. She was wearing a 1. piece red suit underneath the dress. She was dressed in brown sandal boots that reached her calves. Numerous bodies from Deidara's bomb victims lay all around them. On the surface, numerous collapsed chambers and tunnels were also visible. The blonde shinobi taunted, "You guys are so weak, it's a wonder how Orochimaru survived so long, Zetsu interrupted them in the same way that Itachi and Sasuke had been interrupted. Before vanishing once more, the plant spoke like a shinobi and said, "Retrieval is a success, proceed to the next phase." Deidara pointed to Gurren and said, "It's your lucky day, We will meet again, but I'll leave you a present." Gurren gave him the ram hand gesture. As another round of explosions burst all around them, the Akatsuki member exclaimed, "Don't forget that art is a blast." Gurren cried out, "Shoten! Suisho Aro no Jutsu, right away." Since she was completely surrounded by a crystal wall, she had to use one of her jutsus to shield herself from the explosion. The invader had already disappeared when she used the jutsu to dispel it. A few minutes later, Kabuto showed up in a shunshin carrying an unconscious Sasuke on his shoulder. The second in command declared, "We're moving to another base, Gurren. This one is compromised, we can't stay here any longer." The Hokage office in Konoha 2 weeks had passed since Naruto left on his training trip, and although Tsunade was worried about him, she was currently dealing with more pressing matters. A reply letter from the Raikage, which she had not expected since receiving her original scroll over a month ago, was sitting on her desk. She believed that he was uninterested in her proposal, but it appears that things have changed, perhaps not for the better, if the letter's contents are accurate. The Land of Iron, a neutral nation renowned for its samurai, was the location of the proposed 3-day 5-cage meeting, as requested by the Yondaime Raikage. The topic of this meeting was Akatsuki and the kidnapping of his brother, Killer Bee, the Jinchuriki of the 8th Tailed Ox. Each cage was permitted to have 2 bodyguards. Shizune, her assistant, asked, "Bad news, Tsunade, Sama?" As she threw the scroll to her apprentice, Tsunade said, "See for yourself, Shizune." The brunette's eyes grew wide as she read the scroll. Shizune asked, "Who will you bring? Aside from me, of course." "You're not coming, Shizune." Tsunade shot back, and before Shizune could object, she continued, "I would have brought Sakura and Kakashi, but you will be the Hokage during my absence. I don't want Danzo or anyone else trying to get any funny ideas while I'm away, and you're the only one I trust for this job." She was still grieving over the loss of her last apprentice. According to the Chunin Sakura attacked, Sakura had betrayed the Leaf and openly attacked them before departing the village. "I understand, Tsunade. Sama. Who shall I summon to go with you then?" Shizune replied. The blonde Hokage answered, "Get me Kakashi and Guy." An hour later, Konoha's taijutsu and ninjutsu experts escorted the departing Godem Hokage. Compound Namikaze. Suddenly, there was a puff of smoke coming from the Namikaze training area. A tall blonde man was visible as it cleared out. With a joyful tone, the blonde said, "Home sweet home. At last, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze is back, unknown place." Within a dimly lit cave, 9 figures wearing cloaks were engaged in a Jinchuriki sealing ritual with the enormous structure known as Gedo Mazo. The unconscious body of the 8-tailed ox Jinchuriki, Killer Bee, lay in the center of the space. "I am quite satisfied with the recent success we achieved. Not only did we get Orochimaru's ring back, but we also managed to take in the Hachibi. Now let's begin the sealing. With our 9th ring back, the procedure should take less time to complete than it previously did," the leader said. The Gedo Mazo was awakened when all of the Akatsuki members began to channel chakra to their rings. Soon after, it began to emit tendrils of chakra that were pointing toward Killer Bee's body. The Jinchuriki's body began to float, but just as the chakra absorption was about to begin, a puff of smoke appeared in the spot where the host's body had been, to be replaced by one of the Jinchuriki's severed tentacles from its altered state. "It seems the Jinchuriki managed to trick you, Hidan, Kakuzu, Kisame. I can't really blame you though. Even with my Sharingan I did not detect any genjutsu from this fake body. Furthermore, its chakra level was consistent with a body tired from an all-out fighting with the 3 of you," Uchiha Itachi said with his trademark stoicism. "So 4 Jinchuriki still remain. Zetsu, how did Kumo react after our intrusion in their territory?" asked the leader. "That's most troubling. From the information I managed to gather, the Raikage was furious about his brother's kidnapping and asked for a 5-cage meeting. The meeting is scheduled in 3 days and will take place on the neutral grounds of Tetsu no Kuni," replied Zetsu. "If the Jinchuriki is not with them and all we managed was to capture a stupid clone, then where the hell is that damn octopus idiot?" shouted Hidan. You will continue to monitor Kumo's actions, Setsu. Still no news from the Kyuubi Jinchuriki either? Replied the leader. Not since he disappeared without a trace inside Konoha. He may still be inside the village though. There are several places that I cannot penetrate with my blending powers, replied Zetsu. Very well, what do you know about that cage meeting? Which cage is coming and who are they bringing with them as escorts? Asked the leader. Every cage has accepted the invitation. The Tsuchikage is coming with Kuretsuchi and Akatsuchi. The Hokage is coming with Kakashi and Gai. The Mizukage is coming with Zabuza and Haku. The Raikage is coming with Yugito and Darui, and finally the Kazekage is coming with Tamari and Konkuro, said Zetsu. They are going to gather 2 of our targets in one place with little security and a handful of samurai to protect them, Didera responded. The leader said, that's a great opportunity, indeed. Iron Country Tsunade and her escort arrived in Tetsu no Kuni after a 2-day journey that was uneventful overall, though she became increasingly irritated with Gai and Kakashi's constant challenges. She did, however, come up with the ideal plan to unofficially punish Naruto upon his return, sending him on a protracted mission with those 2. The large samurai fortress was the destination that the blonde Hokage and her staff arrived at. Every other delegation was waiting for them when they were led to the meeting room. Already, Gai was yelling about how embarrassing it was to be the last to arrive and threatening to punish himself for it. Tsunade was led to the center of the meeting room as soon as she entered, and Kakashi and Gai went upstairs to join the observation seats. Like all the other cages before her, Tsunade took a seat and put her Hokage hat in front of her. At that point, the lone cage seated beside them got up and said something. Now that Hokage Dono has arrived, this meeting can start. I am Mifune, General of the Samurai from Iron Country, and it is my pleasure to host this meeting between the cage of the 5 great ninja villages. The leader of the samurai. Mifune had long gray hair that hung down to nearly his waist, and his head was wrapped in bandages. His eyes were black and had noticeable furrows beneath them. He had a gray mustache and goatee as well. At last, he dressed simply in a purple kimono style garment. Before returning to his seat, Mifune said, now, Raikage. Dono will be the one to speak first, as the one who originally asked for this meeting. The Yondaime Raikage rose to his feet and surveyed the entire meeting room, glancing at each cage for a brief moment before letting out a sigh and speaking. The reason I called for this cage meeting is the recent incursion of the terrorist group called Akatsuki inside the borders of Lightning Country. They attacked 2 of my subordinates and kidnapped one of them, my younger brother killer B. Jinchuriki of the 8-Tails Ox. Is said in a voice of rage. I don't trust any of you and I didn't plan to meet with any of you in the first place, much less cooperate with your villages. I called you here to ascertain everyone's position towards that rogue group. Konoha, Suna, Iwa and Kiri. Akatsuki has member hailing from your villages. Furthermore, I even have proofs that some of you actually used their help in the past, announced the Raikage. Surely you didn't make me come all the way to this forsaken place and in such a short notice to start pointing fingers at me or the other cage, Raikage. Dono. I can assure you that this meeting will end very soon if that was the case. Tsunade calmly replied. I made sure to send an advanced warning to every shinobi village about them more than a month ago, though the message was mostly for you Raikage, Dono. Suna had already been attacked by them in the past, so they were already aware of the threat that Akatsuki represents. Kumo on the other hand, still had 2 Jinchuriki at the time and never faced Akatsuki, nor were you aware of them since you correctly mentioned that there is no Kumo missing nin in their ranks. Tsunade continued as the Raikage sighed. Gaara asked, what do you propose we do then, Hokage, Dono? The same thing I already asked in my letters to all of you, temporary truce among us and cooperation in defeating a common foe once and for all, Kazekage. Dono, replied Tsunade. Mifune questioned the other leaders, what do you say, Raikage? Dono, Mizukage. Dono, Kazekage. Dono, and Tsuchikage. Dono. Kirigakure will cooperate with the alliance. We already lost both of our Jinchuriki recently, but we will help in any way we can to put an end to Akatsuki. Mei responded. Sanagakure will also join the alliance. Konoha already helped us in the past against Akatsuki. No one can tell when they will come back. I refuse to let my people suffer from it, Gaara stated. Everyone's attention was then drawn to the final 2 cages who had not yet responded to the alliance proposal. It was the Raikage's turn to speak first. Even though I still don't trust any of you, I have my people and my daughter to consider too. Kumogakure will also participate in the alliance against Akatsuki, announced with a deep breath. To the surprise of everyone in the room, The Tsuchikage slowly rose from his seat and began to levitate above the floor. Then the old cage closed his eyes and simply lay there, suspended in midair, meditating. With a sudden roar, Onoki exclaimed, "You will never become Konoha's ally." The Tsuchikage then reached out to embrace the other cage and performed a jutsu. "Jinten. Genkei Hikari no Jutsu," exclaimed the Tsuchikage as a translucent cube with a sphere in the middle materialized between his palms. As it was launched towards its target, the structure grew quickly, enclosing all of the cages inside of it. Then it seemed as though the sphere burst with immense force, and the outer walls of the building effectively contained the blast radius, causing everything inside to be crushed into dust and everyone inside to be destroyed. That was the jutsu's stated purpose, at least, but each cage managed to escape the death trap. After emerging from behind Tsunade, Kakashi deflected the blast from Tsunade by literally bending space around her with the help of his new jutsu with the Mangekyo Sharingan. Gaara just lifted his Suna no Yoroi, completely insulating himself from the Tsuchikage's maneuver. Just as things got out of hand, Haku and his Makio Hyosho caused an ice mirror to appear behind Mei. Using the mirror, the Mizukage managed to extricate herself from the dust jutsu. A, on the other hand, turned on his Raiden no Yoroi and quickly exited the cube before it exploded. The Raikage exclaimed, "What's the meaning of this, Ryodanban no Onoki?" but discovered that the man had already left with his two guards. A new voice said, "Well, it seems Iwagakure will not join you ridiculous alliance, Raikage. Dono." As Zetsu emerged in the center of the conference room, everyone in the room turned to see his arrival. The Raikage leapt in front of Yugito and Darui, yelling, "Akatsuki." Tsunade yelled to Guy and Kakashi, "Protect the Cage and Yugito. Akatsuki is after them." They were joined by the two bodyguards of the Mizukage. "Calm down a bit, will you? We did not come here to fight and I'm just a clone," the intruder replied. Tsunade inquired, "What do you want? Our leader has an offer for you all. We now have more than half of the Biju at our disposal. Hand over the rest of them and we will stop attacking your villages. Failure to comply will result in your total destruction," replied Zetsu. "You will pay for taking my brother. I will never hand over Yugito to you either," the Raikage yelled. "Your brother? There seems to be a misunderstanding. We failed to capture him. He is a Jinchuriki with total control over his Biju after all," replied the member of Akatsuki. The Raikage was furious because he realized Killer B had used the chance to get away from Akatsuki and goof around while Kumo was inconsolable over his disappearance. "I will never let you get Naruto. The Cage is our ally and we won't let you take him either," Tsunade said. Zetsu answered, "Then you will all meet your end today in this place." But before he could finish his sentence, the Raikage materialized in front of him, his lightning armor activated, and he was struck in the face by a very strong blow that broke his neck instantly. Abruptly, a group of samurai entered the chamber, and their leader presented his findings to Mifune. "Mifune. Sama, Iwagakure is marching against us. 5 battalions have crossed our borders and they are taking position all around this place as we speak," the samurai replied. Iron Country's boundaries. After gathering his forces, Onoki gave the order to begin the attack. "No prisoner except the Cage and the Raikage's woman bodyguard," were the precise instructions he issued. "You must destroy Konoha and their allies. Today we will avenge all our brothers and sisters who fell during the last war against them," screamed the Sandame Tsuchikage. His granddaughter Kuretsuchi questioned, "Is it really safe to declare war against so many villages at the same time, Gigi?" Although she had never been fond of Konoha, even her grandfather thought it was foolish to declare war on the entire world. "There's nothing to worry about. If we manage to take out every cage at the same time, they won't have the leadership to organize themselves against us," replied Onoki while in a trance. Even though the youthful Iwakunoichi was not persuaded, she knew better than to bring up the Tsuchikage's directives. After that, she made the decision to head to the front lines. Unknown place. Zetsu returned to the cave, where Tobi and the leader were waiting for him. Tobi said, "Report, Zetsu," in a tone that was noticeably more serious than usual. "Everything is going as scheduled, Madara. Iwa is going to engage them at any moment now," replied Zetsu. "I can't believe my suggestion jutsu worked so well on Onoki. I forced him to reject any idea of an alliance with Konoha just like I forced Yugura to seek and destroy any bloodline wielder," said the masked Akatsuki. Tobi, the now identified masked man as Uchiha Madara, asked, "On another note, Nagato, have we located the Hachibi yet?" The phony leader, Nagato, replied, "We have a lead. I've sent Kisame and Itachi there." "Excellent," declared Madara, who then gradually vanished into the night. Conference space, Mei said, concerned about the approaching invasion. What should we do? Those samurai don't stand a chance against Iwagakure's troops. 5 battalions, that's 500 ninja. We form an alliance and help them to win that battle. This is what we came for after all before the Tsuchikage betrayed us and that freak Akatsuki appeared, replied Tsunade. With a determined voice, Gaara continued, I agree with Hokage. Dono, let's do it. The Raikage, relieved that Killer B was still alive, said, very well, the sooner we end this the sooner I can go get my brother and kick his ass for his deception. Mifune gave them instructions on where to fight and said, this place is a fortress built to resist against such attacks. I will direct you to strategic points to defend. After giving each other a nod, the cage left the meeting room. Walls of the samurai fortress, every cage positioned themselves on a corner of the fortress with their 2 bodyguards. They were all waiting on the ninja of Iwagakure to show up. Under Mifune's leadership, 200 samurai were positioned evenly throughout the walls and prepared to repel the intruders. Fighting more than 2 to 1 and pitting samurai against shinobi meant that the odds were not very favorable. Everything would depend on how each member of the alliance performed. Abruptly, a tremendous wind whipped across the whole area. While samurai had to grip the ground to stay upright despite their ostensibly heavy armor, ninja had to channel chakra to their feet in order to maintain their position. The delegations from Konoha, Suna, and Kiri were able to identify the shadow that materialized atop the main gate as soon as the wind subsided. Tsunade exclaimed, Naruto. You're back. The blonde Jinchuriki said, you guys seem quite nervous. What's going on? Did I miss something, Ba-chan? Gaara grinned at his friend and said, you're right on time, as usual, Uzumaki Naruto. Mei said in a seductive voice, Naruto-kun, it's good to see you again. The Raikage grinned and said, so that's the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, I have to say he knows how to make an entrance. Naruto said, drawing a face. Palm from everyone inside the fortress. I don't know if you're aware of that, but on my way here I came across a bunch of Iwanins. They were quite aggressive and attacked me out of nowhere, so I had to take them down. I hope the Tsuchikage will understand it was self-defense. Walls of the samurai fortress standing above the main gate, facing the delegations of shinobi and samurai, was Naruto. He quickly identified Mei from Kirigakure and his fellow Jinchuriki friend Gaara the Kazekage, who were both standing in a corner of the base with 2 bodyguards. He sensed Yugito's Yuki as soon as his gaze locked on the Kumogakure group. He was facing the Jinchuriki from the Two-Tailed Cat, Natsuki informed him. From the surprised expression on her face, Naruto could tell that the Kumo Kunoichi felt his Yuki as well. It was also likely that her Biju had informed her about him being with Natsuki. Tsunade made the decision to bring everyone up to speed after she had recovered her composure. Raikage. Dono, this young man here is Uzumaki Naruto, one of the most powerful Jonin from the Leaf. You may already know him from his bingo book moniker, the Kase no Kami. Kazekage. Dono and Mizukage. Dono have already met him in the past. The blonde Hokage replied. Uzumaki. Are you perhaps related to Uzumaki Kashina, Naruto-san? A inquired to Naruto. Naruto addressed the Raikage before Tsunade had the chance to shift the topic. Yes, she's my mother. While we're on the subject, my father was the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. It is a pleasure to meet you, Raikage. Sama. Naruto replied, bowing his head. Although Tsunade knew the younger blonde's answer was a secret, she still wanted to chastise him for being so honest. At this point, it didn't really matter if everyone in the world knew that Iwagakure was already their enemy. The audience, however, was far more moved by Naruto's confession because there in front of them was the son of Konoha's Yellow Flash, a well-known figure in the elemental nations. Mifune and his samurai were even aware of the man's reputation. Zabuza merely chuckled at the news, knowing that his loss to the second coming of the Kiroi Senko somehow lessened the blow of his earlier defeat to the blonde. Mei already knew, but her bodyguards were unaware. The news made Gaara's eyes widen, and he could see through the blonde once more. Both Kage's sons, they were despised and alone because of the weight they bore. Despite his circumstances, Naruto managed to overcome them, and Gaara's respect for his friend grew even stronger upon discovering his ancestry. The Raikage assumed that in addition to talking to Naruto about Kumo's previous attempt to kidnap Kashina, he would also need to discuss his meeting with Minato. It gave the blonde a simple smile before continuing. Nice to meet you too, Naruto. We have things to discuss about. It concerns both your parents, but this isn't the time nor the place to. Now what is it that you said about taking out Iwanins on your way here? Said A. Tsunade questioned her subordinate. Yes, Naruto, what are you doing here? When did you get back from your training trip? After striking his signature pose and giving his leader a quick scratch on the back of his head, Naruto spoke. Well, yeah, sorry about leaving without warning you first, but I needed to leave as fast as possible. I went to a place where I could not contact you. Anyway, my training is completed now and I came back yesterday. Shizune explained the situation to me and I left as soon as she told me about the meeting and what you were discussing. I think she tried to say something before I left but I didn't really pay attention, began the blonde Jonin. On my way here, I saw shinobi troops from Iwagakure advancing towards this position. They did not even let me talk and started to attack as soon as they saw me. I thought that maybe I was intruding on a restricted zone reserved to Iwa and did not want to cause diplomatic issues with them. I decided to just knock them out and then I came here as fast as I could, and you know the rest. Where's the Iwa delegation, by the way? I swear it was auto defense. If you let me speak with the Tsuchikage Jiji, I'm sure he'll understand. Ba. Chan. Naruto continued. The blonde's obvious disdain for his leader and the fact that he just chose to come here by himself, leaving his own village, left those who didn't know Naruto gasping. While the others laughed at Naruto's antics, Tsunade chose to inform him of the current circumstances, knowing full well that nobody could have prevented him from coming here save herself or an army, much less Shizune on her own. There will be no need to explain yourself with Onoki, Naruto. Iwagakure suddenly attacked us during the meeting and ran away after their surprise attack failed. The men you met on your way here are their backup plan. They are currently blocking our retreat and they will launch an attack on this fortress very soon. It's a shame you only knocked out those you encountered. We are severely outnumbered. Tsunade told Naruto. Knowing the agenda for the cage meeting, Naruto said, I see, what about the meeting? Did you guys reach an agreement about the Jinchuriki and Akatsuki? Yes, an alliance has been formed between Suna, Kumo, Kiri and Konoha. We will share any information we receive about Akatsuki and we will assist each other in the fight against them. Jinchuriki will be protected and you may even get to train with them, though it will have to wait until the Raikage finds his brother. Mei chose to respond this time. At the redhead's announcement, Naruto's eyes grew wide, his sensei's words echoing in his head. Jiraiya's goal was to bring the world together nearly against a single enemy. Naruto was not unaffected by Iwagakure's treachery and pondered the reason behind their irrational behavior. The Raikage questioned him, anyway, how many of them did you take out during your skirmish? Not that much, I'm afraid. I think it was a group of 50, I didn't really stop to get a head count, you know, replied the young shinobi. Contrary to what Naruto's tone seemed to suggest, taking out 50 of Iwagakure's elite was no small feat, as his reply once again caused the audience to face palm. His vanguard, Iwagakure just as Kuretsuchi joined the army, a Jonin materialized in front of her. The Iwa Jonin, kneeling in front of Sandame Tsuchikage's granddaughter, said, Kuretsuchi. Sama, we lost contact with our men from Sector 1. Kuretsuchi answered, not revealing her surprise to the man in front of her, have one squad investigate the zone. In the meantime send men from Sector 2 and 3 to cover the hole this made in our lines. The brunette had a bad gut feeling about the entire situation, believing that Iwa would not be able to get away with what they were going to do. The combined might of 4 out of the 5 great ninja villages was too much, even if they could manage to capture the 2 Jinchuriki and kill the others. She was aware that her grandfather had harbored strong animosity toward Konoha since the end of World War I, but the elderly man never put his feelings ahead of the welfare of his community. There was nothing the village could gain from this, and she was unsure of what exactly was so wrong. Akatsuchi made the decision to remain with the Tsuchikage because he was utterly devoted to the elderly man and would never allow him to leave his sight. Those two were in the lead of the main assault wave that would meet the main gates of the samurai base. The secondary troops that would encircle the remainder of the samurai's base were placed under the command of the kunoichi. It would still take the troops an hour to reach their objective. Kuretsuchi chose to join the Sector 1 investigation squad because he had nothing better to do. Unknown place Zetsu and Pain remained in the cave where Madara had given them instructions. Abruptly breaking the ice, Zetsu addressed the organization's apparent leader. It seems like the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is back in the game, he stated. Where is he? Pain inquired. He just broke through Iwagakure's lines, taking out several shinobi along the way and joined the others at the cage meeting, replied Zetsu. We have to seize this opportunity to get him, send Kakuzu and Hidan in, instructed Pain. Zetsu questioned, what of the 2 other Jinchuriki? Pain asked, what about them? Zetsu asked, who do we target first? Iwa is already going for the Ichibi and Nibi, we will focus our efforts on the Kyuubi. Relay these orders to Kakuzu and Hidan. They are to specifically target Uzumaki Naruto. The Cage and Yugito are secondary target. Pain issued his orders. Before vanishing, Zetsu declared, "It shall be done." The samurai's stronghold, the Alliance, awaited the commencement of the battle once more. Based on the reports from Mifune and his scouts, they should soon be within range. Naruto made the decision to station himself at the main gates, giving his fellow ninja allies the duty of guarding the perimeter of the base. As expected, shortly thereafter, Iwagakure's forces were spotted. They began the siege just as night fell, most likely taking advantage of the cover provided by the darkness to reduce the defenders' ability to hit them with long-range shots. Although the invaders were able to easily avoid the samurai's arrows, it was evident that their lack of light was an obstacle. The samurai were using bows. Since there was no effective wall defense against long-range ninjutsu, the fortress was not designed for ninja combat either. Numerous dotenjutsu were used to launch rocks of varying sizes against the base's walls, indicating that the enemies were obviously taking advantage of this. Konoha's crew. Northern Corner Tsunade was aware that the force of Iwagakure's attack would eventually cause the base's walls to collapse. This fortress, unlike Konoha, had no seals set into the walls around it to block ninjutsu thrown at it. Iwa was probably waiting to charge in, not exposing themselves beforehand, for a breach in one of the walls encircling the base. With the help of Guy opening his inner gates, Kakashi using his Sharingan, and her lethal taijutsu, their corner was prospering and they were destroying everything in their path with ease. However, waiting was their only option because attempting to leave at this time would have been extremely dangerous. Iwa was unable to cross over to the Konoha team's side of the base as they held their ground. East side corner. Kiri's group. It was also easy for the Mizukage and her two guards to hold their ground. While Mei or Zabuza just destroyed the enemy missiles after they were frozen, Haku used his Hyudan bloodline to freeze them. Mei was using only her Yotan bloodline to destroy the approaching frozen projectiles. Even the largest of them were easily thwarted by the strong heat differential between the frozen rocks and her lava bullets. For his part, Zabuza broke through the smaller, faster rocks with his enormous cleaver, the Kabikirabocho. Suna's team at southern corner also performing their duties were the Cage and his siblings. Gaara covered their side of the base with his sand. They essentially knew their corner was safe for the time being because there was no way in hell the invaders could outrun him in chakra capacity. Tamari still assisted her younger brother and leader, slicing down the smaller rocks when she could with her sharp wind skills. But Kankuro was pretty much worthless at that point. Although he had never been good at long-range combat, the puppet master would be invaluable when he would decided to charge in close quarters. Kumo's team. Western corner Darui, Yugito, and the Raikage were also successful in deterring the invaders. To protect their position, Ei and Yugito primarily used their enhanced reflexes and sophisticated taijutsu forms. By turning on his lightning armor, the Yondaime Raikage improved the synaptic transmission in his body, which sped up his reaction time and general speed. His adopted daughter enhanced her efficiency and senses by using her feline features. Yugito had the ability to grow the long claws on her finger and toe nails, giving her the deadly precision to slash at anything. Because of his Rantan bloodline, Darui was able to fire plasma beams that were extremely hot and charged. It goes without saying that his ability helped them avoid or destroy the rocks that were thrown at them. Principal gates behind the fortress's main gates, Naruto was joined by Mifune and a few of his soldiers. The blonde picked this spot because scouts said Onoki himself would be leading the main assault force that would target the gates. As reported, Iwa focused the majority of their firepower on the gates, throwing the larger, faster rocks in this direction. Mifune proved to be a competent swordsman, effortlessly slicing through the stones with his katana. To protect their position, Naruto only employed wind jutsu of a moderate level. The fact that the Tsuchikage had not yet joined the fight surprised Naruto. Something was wrong, but he was unable to identify what. From his corner of the base, the Raikage smirked and asked, "Is that it? Is that really what Iwagakure's elite can offer?" Unable to find any comfort, Naruto chose to use the Ryugan, his superior sight. He was able to survey the base's surroundings thanks to the dragon sight, but he scowled at what he saw that was beyond the range of his normal vision. The young sage startled his allies with a sudden yell. As the Konoha Jonin pulled Mifune away with him, he yelled, "Take cover immediately, get away from the gates." No one could see the Tsuchikage, which Naruto identified by the cage hat he was wearing, applying a ceiling tag of sorts to a massive rock that his tall subordinate could easily lift. Then the taller man readied himself to hurl the enormous boulder in their direction. Naruto surmised that the seal was either explosive in nature or contained a powerful jutsu that would completely destroy its target. Naruto called out, drawing ninja from all over the base. Everyone, destroy the giant boulder that's coming towards the gate with any long-range jutsu you have. The four Kage cursed that they missed that one coming and realized instantly why the blonde appeared to be in such panic. Mei and Gaara attempted to divert or stop the boulder, but it arrived too quickly and it was too late. The ceiling tag attached to the boulder glowed briefly as it approached the base's gates, and then it expanded into what appeared to be a larger version of Onoki's previous jutsu, the Jinten Genkei Hikari no Jutsu. The boulder hit the gates, damaging them but not taking them down. But the jutsu encircled its target and, in a matter of seconds, completely destroyed it, leaving the fortress with a massive hole in it. The defenders escaped that attack unscathed because Naruto had given them advance notice, but they did lose one of their few advantages in the fight. The attacking forces quickly halted their bombardment of the base's sides, so Iwagakure did not miss this. Probably getting ready for one last frontal assault, since the fortress's walls had been breached. Grimly, Mifune declared, and thus truly begins the first battle of the alliance. The samurai's stronghold with Mifune's men in a state of panic, fearing they would soon be overrun by Iwagakure's elite forces. Onoki's attack managed to open a massive breach in the alliance's defensive line. In fact, the majority were prepared to surrender and vacate their stations. Someone shouted, "Silence!" from near the location of the former gates. Turning their heads, everyone saw Naruto staring at them. The blonde closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and began to speak. "My sensei once had a dream. He dreamed that one day the world would be united as one in peace, that men would finally be able to understand each other. He sacrificed many things along the way, just trying to reach that goal: friendship, love and family. Everybody wrote him off as an idealistic fool, everybody. And yet here we are, united in this place, ninja and samurai, representing every village in the elemental nations against a common foe," Naruto said, drawing the interest of everyone at the base of operations. Tsunade was aware of Jiraiya's dream, the Toad's prophecy, and the way he lived his life to fulfill his destiny. Those 500 Iwa shinobi out there have also written us off. There are a few in this world who do still believe in us, who will never give up on us, family, friends or lovers. You go back to your positions and those are the people I want in your minds. Those are the people I want in your hearts. The Namikaze continued with his remarks. He was speaking truthfully. Everyone had someone to turn to and someone they would fight to the very end for. Every man at some point in his life is gonna lose a battle, he's gonna fight and he is gonna lose. But what makes him a man, is that amidst that battle, he does not lose himself. The fight is not over, this battle is not over. Let's win this together, let's go back to our loved ones, help me show the entire world that my master was not an idealistic fool. Naruto screamed, followed by cheers from everyone. For a brief moment, everyone who knew Namikaze Minato saw his shadow behind Naruto and understood that this marked the start of a new legend in which Naruto would surpass everyone, including his father. Natsuki told him, "Those were great words, Naru-kun, very inspiring." The Namikaze heir replied, "Thanks, Na-chan." Beyond the base with the gates destroyed, the Sandaime Tsuchikage and his bodyguard rejoined his men on the front lines while his battalions reorganized the ranks around him in preparation for the decisive attack. A few moments later, he saw his granddaughter emerge in a shunshin behind them. The elderly leader said, "Report, Kuretsuchi. Our troops from Sector 1 met a mysterious shinobi from Konoha. They tried to prevent him from reaching the samurai's base but he managed to force his way through, knocking down a good number of our men in the process," replied the kunoichi. The Kage inquired, what did he look like and what moves did he use? "White clothes, blonde hair and blue eyes, nothing more accurate than that. The men don't even know what kind of jutsu he used back there, all they said was that everyone suddenly lost control of their body and lost consciousness shortly after that," according to Kuretsuchi. Onoki gave her no opportunity to argue, saying, "Very well, you will stay here at the rear while I lead our men inside." As they prepared to take up their positions, they heard roars and cheers emanating from the interior of the fortress. Onoki grinned and said, "Quite optimistic, aren't they?" as he moved in the direction of his army. Kuretsuchi watched her grandfather go and said, "Looks like they won't surrender after all." A remote location, there were two shadows observing the fight from a distance. They were dressed in Akatsuki. The first one asked angrily, "Why the hell can't we just go in and join the battle? Can't you shut up already, Hidan? We will remain here and wait until each side wears each other out," replied the second time. "Aren't you a little bit too cautious, Kakuzu? It's not like anything down there could actually kill us, you know," Hidan replied to his companion. "Our target is quite the tricky one, We can't let him know that we're here until it is already too late for him to escape from us, replied Kakuzu. The silver-haired man smirked and said, fine, but I call dibs on him. I'll show that fake Kami that Jashin Sama is the only true god. The samurai's stronghold. After hearing Naruto's words, the defenders gathered their courage and fighting spirit and went back to their original positions. Mifune gave the order for his men to switch to close contact weapons, putting away their bows in favor of katana in preparation for the impending battle. The shinobi held their positions, protecting the corners of the base from above, and Naruto joined the elderly samurai general while Mifune stayed close to the side of the gates. Getting a nod from the samurai, Naruto said, I will let you and your men handle the gates, old man. What plans do you have, Uzumaki? Don't know, Mifune questioned him. Naruto grinned and said, I'm counting on you to stall them for as long as you can. I found a weakness in their attack patterns. Will you be alright on your own? I can always have some of my men go with you, asked Mifune. Naruto took a few steps back and performed hand signals before saying, that won't be necessary. Let's just say that most of my more powerful attacks have a wide area of effect. You wouldn't want your men to be too close to me when I launch them. Kachiyose no Jutsu, Ninpo. A poof of smoke heralded the arrival of one of Naruto's summons, the blonde exclaimed, slamming his hands on the ground. When the smoke cleared, everyone gasped at the sight of Ruo, the Dragon King himself. Unlike the other boss summon, Ruo was not a monstrous creature, rather, he was only slightly larger than Hiryu. His body was entirely covered in black scales, and when he activated the Ryugan, his eyes looked like Naruto's. Naruto, this is the first time you've called on me. The beast roared, staring at his summoner. I really hope that you didn't call me here for one of your stupid pranks. Naruto answered, gesturing to the damaged gate and Iwagakure's troops moving in their direction. I assure you that it's not the case. If you just took a look outside the base, you would understand how serious the situation is. Alright, I'll lend you my abilities. The Dragon King said, lead on, it's been a while since my last battle in the human world. I hope they will put up a good fight. Naruto nodded and leapt onto his back. Now that Mifune knew what Naruto had said earlier, the younger blonde's assessment was spot on. Their adversary lacked air support and would find it difficult to repel the dragon's blows while attempting to breach the base simultaneously. With a smile on his face, the samurai leader witnessed Naruto and Ruo vanish into the night, the Dragon King's dark form providing them with the ideal cover. The first Iwa nins appeared at the doors as soon as Naruto and his dragon vanished, trying to break through the samurai's defense lines. They were faster than Mifune's men, but the samurai were more disciplined and well organized, while the ninja were just barging in at will. After Iwagakure's charge was halted, the Iwa nins attempted to escape by running around the hole and up the walls, only to find Alliance shinobi waiting for them. Since most of the samurai had been moved downstairs to block Iwagakure's charge, the shinobi had to cover the entire upper level, giving them the advantage of fighting from higher ground and preventing any intruders from entering the base. Beyond the base, Onoki was not happy that his plan was failing. Report to the commander. The elderly Kage angrily yelled at one of his top officers. We were unsuccessful in passing through, Tsuchikage Sama. The Jonin replied, our men encountered strong opposition behind the gates, and attempting to breach the walls also proved unsuccessful. Just as Onoki was about to give his Jonin new orders, he felt a powerful gust of wind around his body. Trusting his battle instincts, the older shinobi jumped back himself and shouted for his men to move away from the spot. Tsuchikage managed to leap back, but his men were not quick enough, because a split second later the 5 men who stood there had their bodies cut in half. Up in the sky stood the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato, a man who had returned from the dead to try and complete the task he had begun all those years ago during the Third Great War, and every Iwa shinobi on the field looked up to see something they had hoped to never see again. Minato, Namikaze, your crimes against Iwagakure will be paid for, the Tsuchikage roared. Despite his opponent's bewilderment, Naruto decided to formally introduce himself because he didn't want to remain in his father's shadow. Old man, are you getting dementia? The blonde said, I'm Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. Please do not mistake me for my father. Sheathing his blade, he proceeded to use hand signals. Keep Tsuchikage Sama safe, yelled Akatsuchi as he stepped in front of his leader. Soon after, others soon followed suit and began to move around the Tsuchikage. Daitenka Furyu Endan, Futon, yelled Naruto, launching a massive wind dragon in the direction of the earth cage, and Ruo matched him perfectly. The Dragon King inhaled deeply before unleashing a massive torrent of black flames on the same target. When the Iwa Nins saw how quickly and powerfully that attack was coming, they chose to hold their ground and use hand signals as well. Doden. Happy New Year! They cried out as multiple stone walls emerged from the earth, providing their leader with multiple layers of defense. When Naruto's combo attack struck the stone walls, it began to melt the protective structure rather than dissipating. Stupid people. Did you think you could stop the Dragon King's black flames from burning? Ruo roared. Before the Tsuchikage and his men could flee, cries of the suffering Iwa Nins behind the wall could be heard, and a foul stench of burnt flesh and lots of smoke rose from there as Ruo approached and began to flap his enormous wings, stirring the fire attack around the stone wall and completely cutting off any chance of retreat. Just as Naruto was about to turn around and go after the other Iwa Nins, he noticed a shadow quickly emerging from the smoke, revealing a severely burned and bleeding Onoki, who had been thrown by his personal bodyguard Akatsuchi with all of his remaining strength before succumbing to his numerous wounds. Kengan no Jutsu, Doden, called Onoki, as his fist was encased in rock, then with his free hand he made another hand sign before calling a new jutsu, Doden. Shokujugan no Jutsu, sharply increasing the force of his blow. Using the momentum created by his bodyguard's throw, the Sandaime Tsuchikage struck Naruto with a blow that was extremely strong. After the blonde lost control of his summoned creature and began plummeting to the ground, Onoki continued on by using hand signals and summoning another jutsu. Jinten. Hikari no Genkai Jutsu. The enormous dragon was trapped using the same dust technique that nearly eliminated every cage during the meeting and the technique that destroyed the fortress's gates. Naruto used a single hand gesture to dispel Ruo before the Iwa leader could use his technique's destruction phase. Kai. The young man exclaimed as the Dragon King was sent back to the summoning world, just before Naruto carried on falling and struck the ground very quickly. Kill him and don't give him another chance to get up, Onoki shouted to his ground troops. The blonde stood up, his jacket gone, his two dark wings rising behind his back as he used them to slow down his fall. A large group of Iwa Nins began to run towards the spot where Naruto fell, only to be blasted away by a strong gush of wind. Muga no Kyochi, Futon. As he activated his first bloodline mode, Naruto exclaimed. The blonde then took his blade out of its sheath and began to use his own genjutsu field, saying, Futon. Maboroshi no Sakai, as the Iwa Nins surrounded him once more. His opponents had no chance. Once they entered the illusion field, they lost most sense control, making it easy for the blonde leaf Jonin to kill them. Onoki was watching the fight from outside the field, observing his shinobi missing their targets at random or completely unaware of the Namikaze's movements as he moved to kill them from behind. Somehow, the elderly Kage was aware that those were the renowned genjutsu abilities of the Kase no Kami, which were impervious to detection or dispelling. The samurai's stronghold, the shinobi, could see Naruto fighting outside the base. Most of them were unaware of his skills and had looks of admiration and disbelief on their faces. From inside the base, the alliance was doing fine, holding off the successive waves of Iwagakure's elite forces. The Mizukage grinned, recalling his battle with Yagura, still powerful as ever, Naruto.kun. The Raikage said, look at him going, he is definitely that man's son. Observing it in a sparring session was one thing, but witnessing him apply his abilities in an actual combat is truly something else, Tsunade mused, witnessing Naruto dispatch dozens of Iwagakure's finest fighters. Gazing at his friend, Gaara uttered, I'll never be able to repay him the IOU at this rate. Mifune was keeping his men in line while silently observing what Naruto was doing. Combat zone. When Onoki saw his men being massacred by the Namikaze heir, he gave the order to retreat from the blonde. Kuretsuchi joined her grandfather on the front lines at that precise moment, her eyes widening as she saw Akatsuchi among the innumerable dead bodies on the ground. Gigi. What in the world went wrong? The brunette yelled. When Naruto saw the old Kage turning away, he instantly launched himself into a long-range kenjutsu technique, but Onoki paid a heavy price for his carelessness. Kamishini no Yari, Futon. Naruto spoke as his blade began to glow. Sensing the familiar gust of wind, Onoki cursed and realized Kuretsuchi was right behind him and that if he missed the attack, his granddaughter would probably perish. With no intention of running away, the elderly Kage resisted Naruto's attack with his already burned and weakened body, letting the deadly wind spear go straight through his heart and leave a gaping hole before he collapsed slowly to the ground. As Kuretsuchi ran to him, she realized there was nothing more she could do to save him. Gigi. Please get up, the Kunoichi, tears in her eyes, yelled. Kuro. Chan, in what location are we? What's happening? The old man asked. Naruto began to comprehend what was happening as his eyes grew wider at the scene in front of him. A remote location, Kakuzu said. Looks like it's time for us to go, Hidan. At last, let's get crazy, Hidan answered, using Shunshin together. Alongside Naruto as his granddaughter held Onoki during his final moments, Naruto observed. The Kunoichi lowered her head to assist the Sandaime Tsuchikage, who slowly caressed her cheek as he had done when she was a child, as Onoki raised a hand to try to reach Kuretsuchi's face. His words were cut short when he began to cough up blood. Kuro-chan, you need to lead our people now, the old man said. Be careful of the masked one. Gigi. What are you talking about? A bewildered Kuretsuchi, fighting back tears and utterly oblivious to the fact that he had just named her the Yandaime Tsuchikage, his successor, asked. With his final breath, Onoki said, it all started with him, the Sharingan. He then closed his eyes, vowing never to open them again, and let his hand fall to the ground. They had fled quite a distance from the fortress during the battle, and after Naruto defeated most of Onoki's personal guards, only Naruto and Kuretsuchi remained as he slowly walked towards them, trying to figure out what was going on. After getting close enough for Kuretsuchi to hear him, Naruto uttered, I'm sorry for your loss, but he left me no choice. Gigi wasn't involved. He wouldn't have behaved in this manner. Iwagakure doesn't gain anything from this war. I just don't understand, Kuretsuchi retorted. Has he made any remarks to you? Queried Naruto. He warned me to avoid people wearing masks, and it also has to do with people who wield Sharingans. Holding her grandfather's body in her arms, Kuretsuchi remarked, I'm not sure what he meant by that. Though he needed to confirm something else with Kuretsuchi first, Naruto started to formulate theories about this peculiar turn of events. Did his desire for vengeance against Konoha and its allies always exist, or did it just lately evolve? Queried the blonde. It's true that Gigi never liked the Leaf or its allies, but he also didn't harbor grudges. Not long after he received the summons to the cage meeting, everything changed. The brunette replied, it was as if he had lost his identity. He was adamant about destroying the Leaf and didn't give a damn. Naruto couldn't help but compare this to Yagura's sudden transformation from a peaceful leader to a tyrant. The similarities between the two circumstances were striking. I believe you. Naruto began, gazing at the Iwa Kunoichi, whose name he was still unfamiliar with, in front of him. Kuretsuchi, Iwagakure Jonin. My grandfather was Tsuchikage. She answered. Well, I guess I'm no longer a Jonin since he named me his successor. I am Konoha's Jonin Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. I'm reminded a lot of what happened to your grandfather and what happened in Kirigakure. Naruto said. Yagura's behavior also changed overnight, and I believe that both of them were under someone else's control. How is that possible? Not buying Naruto's presumptions, Kuretsuchi retorted, we're talking about two cage-level shinobi here. One being a Jinchuriki and the other one, my grandfather, was a very experienced fighter. I don't know who, but the Sharingan is probably involved. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those powers was mind control or something similar, Naruto replied. Those eyes hold great powers. Kuretsuchi said, looking perplexed, I don't know what to think anymore. Really, it's not that difficult. Will you return with me to help clear your grandfather's name and restore his honor, or do you want everyone to remember him for what he did in that meeting and as the person who doomed Iwagakure? The Namikaze extended his hand to her and asked. After a moment of hesitation, Kuretsuchi chose to accept Naruto's assistance and took his hand, remembering her childhood days spent with her grandfather, the kind and gentle man who was always there for her, even in his final moments. Naruto-san, I sincerely hope you're right. I'm Gigi's heir apparent, but I lack leadership experience. I'm uncertain whether the men will accompany me or accept your account, Kuretsuchi remarked, getting back up with Naruto's assistance. Our top priority is to put an end to this pointless conflict, don't you think, Tsuchikage? Don't know, that enough blood has been shed already? In an attempt to lighten the mood, Naruto asked with a smirk. Kuretsuchi, blushing slightly, said, right. Let me take my grandfather's body first. She was still holding Naruto's hand, but she quickly released it. The Iwa Kunoichi approached Onoki's body, but Naruto shoved her to the ground before she could raise it. What are you doing, in your opinion? Leave me alone, you pervert! Exclaimed the brunette, only to realize that Naruto had turned his head away. Alright, so what have we got here? Hidan, this must be our lucky day. Quite a collection of high bounties, the dead body of Sandaime Tsuchikage, his granddaughter, and the K's no Kami, remarked a man Naruto didn't recognize despite knowing he was from Akatsuki based on the clothes he was wearing. Kakuzu, you can have the girl and the body of the old man. But don't obstruct me. The blonde is mine, so please. Another individual, donning the Akatsuki gears, spoke up. Gosh, I never thought I'd run into members of Akatsuki. She will not, of course, abandon her grandfather's body, but in order to put an end to this war, I will have to deal with those two. Hopefully, my training will be sufficient as I haven't used this new technique in a real fight yet, Naruto thought to himself as he got back up and planned his next move. The blonde Jonin declared, keep your guard up and protect your grandfather's body, I'll take care of them. Kuretsuchi nodded gratefully. Aren't we arrogant? I'll be your rival. The man known only as Hidan said, I'll send your soul to Jashin. Sama, the only true god. Jashin? Where had I previously heard about it? With half of his remaining chakra, Naruto formed a reinforced cage bunshin and set it in front of Kakuzu, not wanting to take any chances in case the second Akatsuki member decided to change his mind and join the battle. Hidan versus Naruto. After concentrating on Hidan, Naruto used his actual body to transform into one of his ultimate bloodline forms. Futon. Jitoku no Kiwami Hyakuren. The blonde exclaimed, the circle surrounding them having already been activated when he opened the Muga no Kyochi, as the first koma of his bloodline tattoo vanished. When they clashed, Naruto decided to use Kenjutsu as well and unsheathed his own katana. The silver-haired member of the Akatsuki charged at him like a madman, extending his strange weapon towards the blonde, a triple-bladed scythe. Naruto effortlessly sidestepped every thrust of Hidan's weapon because he had activated his perfected body enhancement mode. The blonde found the fight to be quite easy, moving twice as fast as he normally did while his opponent was twice as slow. After a few minutes of fighting, Naruto decided to test a little bit more of his opponent's abilities, believing that either the Akatsuki member was hiding something from him or that he was simply very weak. The fact that the member of Akatsuki only used his weapon also seemed very odd. Naruto took a step back, opened a kunai, and threw it in Hidan's direction. He then made hand signals to indicate that he was about to make a move. Sabama Gashi, Futon. The kunai narrowly missed Hidan before abruptly changing direction and multiplying into 10 more kunai, all aimed towards the back of the unwary Akatsuki member, yelled the Leaf Jonin. Hidan never anticipated the attack to hit him and was currently on the ground, cursing Naruto, but other than that, he didn't seem to be dying anytime soon. Naruto didn't try to avoid hitting vital organs as the kunai hit several of them. With a slow gait, the member of Akatsuki rose and removed all the kunai stuck in his back, returning to his attacks on Naruto with just his scythe. Despite having very little awareness of his surroundings, it appears that he has a very high pain threshold, thought Naruto, trying to come up with a fresh strategy. Still no signs of ninjutsu or genjutsu usage, only light taijutsu, and most of his attacks are based on his weapon. Are you a true member of Akatsuki? Is there really such a dearth of good missing nin that they would feel compelled to admit a moron who isn't even proficient in any ninja techniques? Teasing the blonde, attempting to see how his opponent would respond. Not that Naruto was disappointed, as Hidan completely lost control of his emotions and charged in blindly, leaving his stance full of openings that the blonde saw right away. The wind-powered chakra orb tore through Hidan's body, leaving a gaping hole in its path as the blonde powered up a simple futon Rasengan and slammed it into his charging opponent's ribcage. Naruto saw no use in wasting time any longer, so he channeled wind chakra through his blade and quickly severed Hidan's head. Alongside Kakuzu, the clone of Naruto that he left in front of the second Akatsuki member observed the battle between the original Naruto and Hidan. Upon witnessing the missing nin's lack of response when Hidan lost his head, Naruto's clone made the decision to triumph once more and began to gain strength. Futon. Kiwami Seiki Kanpatsu no. The second kama in his tattoo vanished as the clone unleashed the ultimate wind control form of his bloodline. Unfazed by his partner's apparent death, Kakuzu turned his head back to face Naruto's clone as he noticed it powering up. I don't think it was a good idea to leave your friend alone with me the way you did. But don't worry, you will meet him soon enough, a smirking Naruto said, attempting to elicit a response from his new foe. Kuretsuchi, who was standing nearby, nearly puked at the unsettling sight of the missing nin slowly removing his coat and throwing it aside, while Kakuzu remained oddly composed, showing no signs of anger at the loss of his associate or at Naruto's taunts. Then, as Kakuzu knelt down, his body's stitches were beginning to come loose. Suddenly, 4 distinct bodies leapt out of the Akatsuki member's back, creating another unsettling scene. Each entity consisted of 4 bodies, each with a different animal mask, Anbu, covering its face, each with a unique design and color, held together by hundreds of thick black threads to form humanoid forms with heads, legs, and arms. The creatures moved off in different directions, giving Naruto no time to examine them further, while Kakuzu began to study hand signals. Kaiten. Zukaku, as the red, marked mask wearing creature opened its mouth to shoot potent fireballs at Naruto one after the other in quick succession, Kakuzu yelled. When the first creature launched Kaiten techniques at him, Naruto felt the other creatures moving around him and was able to predict the direction, speed, and amplitude of the jutsu with ease thanks to his ultimate sensory mode activated. Atsugai, Futon, called Kakuzu as the blue, marked creature materialized behind Naruto and blasted a massive gust of wind in the direction of its target. Sensing the wind charged jutsu, Naruto felt it and did not even try to dodge. Instead, the blonde just put his hands behind his back and took in the wind technique, since he had much more control over that element than Kakuzu did. The two surviving entities emerged on both sides at the same moment that Naruto was blocking the previous wind jutsu, and Kakuzu announced two new moves. Teppodama. Sweden, Raiden, Gion. The last monster with yellow markings then fired lightning bolts all around them, taking advantage of the water puddle increase their ranges. Announced Kakuzu as the creature with the light blue markings shot huge water bullets towards Naruto, creating a large puddle of water on the floor as the Jinchuriki evaded them all. To escape the death trap created by the combination of those two elements, Naruto had to use his dragon wings. You're very talented, boy. After your Shoden Hokage, you're the only person who has ever managed to avoid that combination of jutsu, Kakuzu remarked. Naruto's eyes grew wide at this, realizing that his opponent had already fought the first Hokage of Konoha in a previous battle, and that based on Kakuzu's current physical state, the Akatsuki member most likely possessed an immortality technique similar to Orochimaru's, if he was able to appear this young during the Shoden era, which was nearly a century ago. Naruto continued to easily avoid every attempt by the thread monsters to harm him while examining Kakuzu's movements to confirm his prior assumptions. The blonde Jonin also realized that, each time, before they could launch a jutsu against him, Kakuzu had to actually go through hand signs and call the techniques before his pets could really fire them. He chose to move around the Akatsuki member at a slow pace after realizing that his assessment of Kakuzu's fighting style was accurate. Just as Kakuzu was about to unleash another jutsu, he suddenly unsheathed his katana and pronounced his own jutsu, Futon, Kamishini no Yari, and his sword began to flare. But before Naruto could unleash his wind spear, he had to cancel it at the last second to fend off an attack that he had not anticipated at all. Hidan was standing behind him, his head stapled back to his body and his scythe just inches from severing it. The blonde looked away to see the original looking just as shocked as he did, certain that he had already severed the silver-haired shinobi's head. Then he noticed what looked like the same black threads that emerged from Kakuzu protruding from the earth. Naruto, quite pleased with the moniker he gave them, muttered, "Damn it, so you're both immortal freaks." Hood Monster used his threads to stitch the incompetent moron's head back. The real Naruto chose to go all out this time, adopting a strange stance with his palms joined in a prayer motion and calling a new technique before his enemies could unite against him. The blonde said, "You leave me with no choice, time to get serious. Hidan needs to go. We can no longer afford to undervalue him. We can't allow him to use whatever he has stored away." As they both ran in the direction of the real Naruto, Kakuzu yelled. Smirking, the Leaf Jonin said, "Too late. Futon. Teni Muho no Kiwami." A sudden explosion and a blinding flash of light erupted in the area as he yelled. The two Akatsuki members, pushed back by the violent explosion, could see their target again as the dust settled and the flashing light gradually faded. The blonde's eyes were glowing now, and a thin green aura surrounded his entire body. "Now let's see you both fight against the wind itself." Combat Zone Naruto faced the two immortal Akatsuki members. One had lost his head while the other appeared to be in excellent health, an unbelievable sight for someone who had fought the Shoden Hokage over a century ago. Still, they remained alive and faced the heir apparent to the Namikaze. The Leaf Jonin realized he would never win this battle if he kept fighting them without becoming more proficient. As a result, he unveiled his most recent technique, Teni Muho no Kiwami, which combines the two supreme forms of his lineage. Seiki Kanpatsu no Kiwami improved his mental abilities, but Hyakuren Jidoku no Kiwami improved his physical prowess. The ultimate shape provided the yin and yang balance, the ideal harmony that let him merge with the wind. After he changed the seal preventing Natsuki's Yuki from being released, Naruto reminisced about his training days in the summoning world and his attempts to get there. Rewind. Dragon's Realm. After failing to access his final form once more, Naruto collapsed to his knees while heavily panting. He had returned from the Toad's Realm a week earlier, having used the key to alter the Shiki fusion and remove the limitation his father had imposed on him when he sealed Natsuki. With the original gate having already consumed one tail, each of his bloodline's enhancement forms consumed 4 tails worth of Yuki. He should have been able to combine the 2 modes after unlocking the 9 tails, but he kept failing every time he tried. Naturally, his body was severely strained from constantly depleting his Yuki reserves, which prevented him from practicing as much as he would have liked. He had exhausted every possibility, but his lack of focus and self-control prevented him from succeeding. He experimented with various approaches, attempting to activate the Hyakuren Jitoku no Kiwami first, then the Seiki Kanpatsu no Kiwami, and vice versa, but to no avail. Ruo observed Naruto's training and remarked, "It seems you're still far from achieving the final form of your bloodline, Naruto." The blonde said to the Dragon King, "I don't know what I'm doing wrong. This is so frustrating. I can perform each mode alone, but trying to activate them both is impossible. From what I see, the control required to activate each of your ultimate abilities already takes every control you can muster. I know it may be hard to hear, but that could be the highest level of control you will ever be able to reach. You are still a human being, that is your limitation. No one expects you to be able to look left and right at the same time." Ruo, unaware that he had given away the secret to beating Naruto. The young dragon summoner's eyes widened as he listened to Ruo's speech. "Stupid, stupid. I'm so stupid, of course there's a way. It was the same with the Rasen Shuriken after all, I have to give it a try. Not that I'm not amused by seeing you finally realize that you're an idiot, but did you just figure out a way to activate the technique?" asked Ruo in an amused tone. With a familiar hand gesture and a jutsu call, Naruto exclaimed, "I think I did. The answer is this. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," exclaimed the blonde, and as a clone of himself materialized beside him, they each proceeded to unlock a distinct bloodline mode. Ruo stood by and watched as Naruto and his clone each followed a different path related to his bloodline. Naruto dispelled the clone with another single hand sign after the activation stabilized. Then there was a loud explosion that rocked the whole area, and the pitch black night was suddenly brightened as if it were daytime. The Dragon King was the first to see the first person to ever reach that level of wind element manipulation that evening. Flashback concludes the 2 Akatsuki members exchanged glances as they tried to decide how to proceed. Hidan said, "Let's do it the usual way, Kakuzu." "Fine, it was a mistake to underestimate him. Let's put an end to this fight, the leader won't be happy if we fail this mission," replied Kakuzu. Then Hidan leapt in front of Kakuzu while the shinobi with the hood pulled together his creatures that threw ninjutsu. The 2 that were left, who were in charge of unleashing Kaden and Futon Jutsu, combined with the one who possessed Suiten and Raiden techniques. When the scythe-wielding shinobi saw that his partner was prepared to fight again, he charged at Naruto. Hidan and Naruto engaged in another close-quarters battle, but this time Hidan had the assistance of Kakuzu's reinforced creatures. Those monsters and their advanced techniques compensated for his lack of ninjutsu. Kakuzu kept his distance, commanding his beasts throughout the entire ordeal. With his accelerated metabolism, Naruto was able to dodge Hidan's attacks and manipulate his opponent's speed during their previous encounter. This time, Naruto was able to anticipate the silver-haired shinobi's every move, so he was unable to even launch an attack. Furthermore, because of their greater speed disparity, the blonde was always in position to hit him in the blind spots before Hidan could even complete his own blows. This resulted in the current scenario, as Naruto anticipated that Hidan would attempt to sever his head with a large side swing around him. By the time Hidan raised his arms to make his move, the blonde Jonin was already crouching in front of his opponent. Naruto stepped in front of Hidan and said, "First lesson, taijutsu." Naruto yelled, "Futon Shinzo Hakai," and put both of his palms toward Hidan's ribcage. Hidan's heart exploded as his body's air was violently forced to contract and then released from the inside out. When the air trapped in his lungs attempted to escape the missing ninja's body, the jutsu caused an internal explosion. As a result, Hidan's upper body burst into a shower of blood and body parts, creating a terrifying sight. The only area of his body that remained unaffected was from his waist to his feet. As he quickly retreated to avert another combo attack from the masked creatures, Naruto declared, "You may still be alive by whatever jutsu you're using, but I'd like to see the other freak trying to patch you back after this." Naruto dodged the Suiten, Raiden beast's attempt to catch him again with a combo attack by leaping into the air. The second beast charged after him, but Naruto moved first and blocked its next blow. Like Gaara when he performed the Sabaku Q, he extended an arm towards the monster and opened his hand as if he was trying to catch it even though they weren't quite close enough. Second lesson, ninjutsu, he said. Futon. Kuroi Anna, was the last thing Naruto said before carefully balling his fist. A singularity materialized behind Kakuzu's still, airborne creature, and all around, including the beast, seemed to be drawn towards it as the wind began to pick up tremendously. Even Kuretsuchi and Kakuzu, who were still far away from the scene, had to apply chakra to their feet in order to avoid getting caught in the jutsu, so Naruto was the only one who was unaffected. After holding his fist closed for a few more seconds, Naruto finally opened it, causing a massive explosion right where the air was being drawn to. Because it was in the middle of the blast zone, the creature he caught was completely destroyed. The two masks, broken beyond repair, were the only parts that remained as they slowly descended to the ground. Gazing at the last masked beast, Naruto called out, "Third lesson, Genjutsu." Naruto yelled, "Futon. Kyoka Suigetsu," before vanishing gradually in front of Kakuzu's startled stare. While Kakuzu was still searching for Naruto, his creature began acting strangely. It seemed to be being pushed as it moved, but nothing was in its immediate vicinity. Kakuzu flared his chakra in an attempt to dispel an undetected genjutsu, but to no avail. Even though Naruto was still pushing the mask, wearing beast around, there was no sign of him, no sound, no smell, nothing. The Takigakure missing nin found this incomprehensible since, even with Itachi's ultimate genjutsu, no genjutsu could physically interact with its target. Instead, the Tsukiyomi could only attack and destroy his opponent's mind, not their body. He had no idea that the blonde had actually summoned his strongest genjutsu. His newfound proficiency with the wind element was so great that he could completely conceal his identity, turning invisible and producing no heat or smell when he moved or struck his target. He was able to totally control his opponent's 5 senses with this jutsu. Suddenly, Kakuzu noticed Naruto emerging from behind a big tree in a fading image. He subtly directed the beast in his direction, and it proceeded to launch another combo attack on the gullible blonde. As the jutsu passed through its intended target, Kakuzu cursed because he realized it was all a mirage. But why the illusion persisted even after contact eluded him. His eyes expanded, though, as the illusion unsheathed its sword and swung it at the mask-wearing creature, destroying both masks in a single blow before gradually fading away once more. In the past, Naruto was able to conjure up extremely lifelike illusions, but now he could also make them interact physically with his targets, projecting their presence, footsteps, heat, breathing sounds, and even engaging in combat by using his wind to simulate blows to the target or swinging a sword. Then, moments later, the real Naruto grinned and materialized in front of Kakuzu. The Leaf Jonin mockingly said, "Did you enjoy my ultimate genjutsu? Anyway, it looks like it's just you and me from now on." Even if Hidan was still alive, Kakuzu was a skilled fighter, and there was no way in hell that he could collect all of the pieces of his broken body and repair them with Naruto present. Furthermore, he was aware that, having lost 4 of his 5 hearts, he was in a position where the blonde's next attack could kill even him. A person who had lived for over a century. Now, he was calculating his chances of making it out and beating the Jinchuriki. Alongside Kuretsuchi Yandaime Tsuchikage, who had just been appointed, was observing Naruto's fight with the Akatsuki members very carefully. The blonde's skill display had already made her very impressed when he defeated Hidan and Kakuzu separately. She considered teaming up with him to repel the Leaf Jonin when they formed an alliance because, no matter how strong he was, facing 2 S-rank missing nins should have been impossible. But no, she thought better of it when he triumphed once more. She could see that he really did deserve the title of Kase no Kami. As stated in his bingo book profile, it appears that he has wind affinity and can do anything. Being an expert in the art herself, she was especially impressed by Naruto's ultimate genjutsu, which was one of the techniques he demonstrated that was beyond comprehension. She realized at the end of the battle that the Iwagakure could not afford to have this man as an adversary. He would become a threat comparable to that of the Yandaime Hokage if they continued to be antagonistic while the man was still alive. As the new Kage of her village, she made stopping the war and negotiating a peace treaty with Konoha her top priority. Hell, she started to believe that it was a miracle that she and the other members of Iwagakure's task force were able to return home alive after witnessing what he could do in this battle. Alongside Naruto, Kakuzu was still considering his next move when Naruto asked, "Are you ready for the next lesson?" Just as Naruto was about to speak again, the member of Akatsuki suddenly moved, not in the direction of where Naruto thought he would run, but in the direction of Kuretsuchi. The missing nin charged toward his objective. Just before striking the ill-prepared Tsuchikage, Kakuzu yelled, "Your heart will replace one of those that damn Jinchuriki destroyed." Using the strange threads he was using to construct his ninjutsu creatures, he had altered his body structure once more. In order to create the monsters he used in the fight, Naruto was able to ascertain that those were used to steal the hearts of his opponent's victims. Before Kuretsuchi could blink, Kakuzu had arrived at her spot, so there was no time for her to respond. She closed her eyes, bracing herself for the inevitable pain, but oddly, nothing occurred. The new Tsuchikage saw only a white flash when she opened her eyes. The young woman, utterly shocked to see the renowned jutsu that cost her village the Third Great War, uttered, "Hi, Hiraishin." When Kakuzu noticed Naruto suddenly materializing in front of Kuretsuchi and him, his eyes grew wide. He looked down and realized why he was feeling such intense pain in his stomach. With his katana unsheathed, Naruto took advantage of Kakuzu's distraction to stab the missing nin in the stomach. The blonde commented aloud, "Well, Fuinjutsu wasn't really part of the last lesson." Unable to recall having made any direct contact with his opponent, Kakuzu asked, When did you mark me with that damn jutsu?" Angry at Kuretsuchi, Naruto replied, "I didn't mark you, she's the one I marked." When the woman realized, her eyes grew wide. She spoke without thinking, "When you took my hand to help me stand up." "Exactly, Tsuchikage." Dono, Naruto grinned in response. "I hope you won't take it the wrong way, I meant what I said when I gave you my trust. It was for your own safety, as not everyone is as forgiving as I am. I wasn't sure the others from the Alliance would have let me the time to explain the situation to them, before they'd try something against you." Naruto continued, not losing sight of his ultimate objective to put an end to the war. Kuretsuchi nodded her head, acknowledging his actions, and he smiled. Naruto said, "Now, where were we? Yes, Kenjutsu is the last lesson." "Futon. Doku Kyuzu," the blonde exclaimed, her blade glowing. After a few moments of silence, Kakuzu abruptly lost consciousness and began to cry out in agony. Naruto was asked, What did you do to me?" by him. "I guess I can tell you, as you will die soon enough. While developing a ninjutsu of mine, I discovered that I could control my wind powers to target my opponent's chakra circulatory system. The technique created thousands of microscopic wind needles that severed my opponent's chakra pathways, interacting to the cellular level. This is what I injected into your body when I used my katana." Naruto responded as he returned his katana and wrapped it up. Shortly after, Kakuzu passed away, and Naruto took his head. The Namikaze was shocked to discover that Hidan, even with just his head, was still alive when he went to get it. Then he wrapped a scroll around both heads. "Let us go back now, Tsuchikage. Dono. We have a war to end, I'm sure everyone is worried about us," he grinned. The samurai's stronghold. The battle was still ongoing, with General Mifune's men holding back the samurai's base and the Alliance's shinobi guarding the upper levels while Iwagakure's elite forces battled to enter. With over 100 men lost, the attacking side was the one with the highest number of casualties thus far. Out of their initial 300 men, the samurai forces had also lost about 80, whereas the Alliance had not lost any members. Mifune's soldiers were tenaciously guarding the main gate because they knew that if their adversary managed to breach their line of defense, it would be easy for them to take over the remainder of the base. An Iwa officer leading 50 men was about to order another charge after yet another failed wave when the sky abruptly darkened. The charge was momentarily halted by the commander raising his arm. Everybody turned to look up and saw a massive dragon soaring above them, carrying 2 people on its back. The people on the dragon's back were identifiable to both sides. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, the K's no Kami from the Leaf, and Kuretsuchi the Tsuchikage's granddaughter. Complete stillness, with nobody daring to move while they stared at the newcomer and tried to understand why the two weren't antagonistic. While directing his dragon summon to approach the fortress, Naruto said to the kunoichi riding behind him, "I guess we have their undivided attention, Tsuchikage. Dono." Kuretsuchi, who was shocked by what had happened to them when they arrived on the battlefield, asked, "What now?" With a smile, the blonde Jonin put his hand on her shoulder and said, "I guess it's time for you to take command of your men so that we can finally stop this battle." Once more, the audience was taken aback when they witnessed a flashing light emerge from behind the dragon's summon and nearly instantly land on top of the base's main gates. The more seasoned warriors of the Alliance, including Iwagakure, were able to identify the Hiraishin jutsu, but the samurai and the younger ones were in shock at what had happened. Combat Zone. The two former Akatsuki members' ruined bodies were still there where Naruto battled Kakuzu and Hidan. Without bothering to bury them, Naruto took their heads and left the bodies to rot. Gradually, a shadow emerged from among the trees, exposing Akatsuki's master spy, the mysterious Zetsu. Zetsu was easily identified by the two enormous extensions that encircled his head and upper body, resembling Venus flytraps and giving him a plant-like appearance. Zetsu's body had two different colors, his eyes were yellow, and he had short green hair when his extensions were open and his head showed. His right side was black with tiny white dots running the length of it, and his left side was pure white. The white half spoke as Zetsu advanced toward the two headless corpses. The leader won't be happy about this new development. The Kyuubi brat took down the immortal combo by himself. The black half said, "It's a good thing they don't know how important the rings are to us in the plan. Otherwise they could have seriously slowed us down, with the number of members they were able to defeat so far." Zetsu moved to retrieve the two rings. The Akatsuki member went on to his second task after retrieving the rings. Zetsu is a cannibal. True to his Venus flytrap appearance, it is his responsibility to consume those who are related to Akatsuki in order to prevent any of their secrets from being revealed. After that, Zetsu proceeded to consummate the bodies of Hidan and Kakuzu, his two former associates. Even though Hidan's blown out internal organs and Kakuzu's poisoned and sewn up bodies might seem appealing, the Akatsuki members did not omit any parts of their bodies. Shortly after finishing his first class meal, he vanished, adopting the same tactic to blend in with the trees as he had when he initially entered the scene. Alongside Naruto, as Naruto prepared to address the still quiet assembly, he sensed approaching motions in his direction. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized that the attacker wasn't really aiming for him, despite the attacker's incredible speed and power output. Kuretsuchi faced the battlefield in the opposite direction. She looked at the many dead bodies of Iwa shinobi that were spread out on the ground in front of her with sadness. Though they weren't yet aware of it, she saw the expectant faces of the ninja who were still alive and now under her command. The kunoichi was not aware of or felt the impending attack on her. "Reigyaku Suihei Choppu!" cried the Raikage, launching a straightforward but effective horizontal chop from above Kuretsuchi's position while his Raiden no Yoroi was activated and lightning chakra covered his entire body. "Futon! Kazekiri!" shouted Naruto as he materialized in front of Kuretsuchi, his hand covered in wind, and he raised it in response to the Raikage's blow. It looked down angrily, wondering why Naruto was covering for the Iwagakure's kunoichi as the two attacks cancelled each other out. A questioned, "What's the meaning of this, Naruto-san? What are you doing with her, and for that matter, do you even know who she is?" as the Raikage glared at the blonde and his guest. The blonde Jonin said, "I know perfectly who she is, however I doubt you do." The Raikage arched an eyebrow at the odd response. Prior to the Lightning Shadow's response, Naruto made the decision to clarify. Surprising everyone on both sides of the walls, Naruto continued, "She is Kuretsuchi, granddaughter of Ryotenban no Onoki, and she was recently appointed Yondaime Tsuchikage after Onoki's death." Kuretsuchi looked down at Iwagakure's troops and said, "Naruto-san here is right, you all need to stand down and listen to me. We have all been played by the terrorist group named Akatsuki and I won't let my grandfather's death be in vain." The acting commander of Iwagakure's army approached the gates cautiously and knelt in front of them before addressing Kuretsuchi. "My lady, you must understand that we will need more substantial proof than what you just said in order to stop this battle," asked the male. Kuretsuchi leapt from her desk and approached the commander. Soon after, Naruto and the other four cages arrived. Both Naruto and Kuretsuchi removed various sealing scrolls and used chakra on them, revealing their contents to the public. Kuretsuchi unveiled Onoki's corpse, while Naruto revealed the two heads of the Akatsuki members he severed. Knowing the bingo book, the Cage and the Iwa officer were able to confirm that Naruto really did have the heads of the two missing nin, Hidan and Kakuzu. The Mizukage, glancing at the heads, remarked, "Those two match the report given to me, about those who abducted Yagura back in Kiri." While remaining kneeling in front of them, Tsuchikage. "Sama, what are your orders? I can also testify about Onoki." "Sama?" asked the officer. The brunette, trying to fit in with her new duties, responded authoritatively, "Gather our men and fall back to Iwagakure. The battle is over. I shall stay here with 2 bodyguards you will select among your men." "As you command, my lady," the Jonin said, making his way back to the troops gradually. "You did great, Tsuchikage. Dono, very professional," Naruto added, giving the new Tsuchikage a menacing glare. Naruto turned to face the cage and said, I will explain everything, I am vouching for her, and she is under the Namikaze clan protection until the end of this meeting. Kuretsuchi was a little taken aback that Naruto would stand up for her in such a situation, even though he was well aware of the significance of the Namikaze name for Iwagakure and her people. The four Kage nodded their agreement to Naruto. After that, every shinobi from Iwagakure left, taking the bodies of the wounded and dead, with the exception of 2 Anbu-level ninja who were chosen to stay and serve as an escort to the Yondaime Tsuchikage. After the samurai followed suit, the cage meeting was able to start up again. Conference space. Since many tables and chairs were damaged during the first session's fighting, the meeting room was outfitted with new furniture. With Kuretsuchi replacing Onoki and Jonin Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto occupying the center of the room, each village now occupied its allotted spaces once more. Just as he had done at the beginning, Mifune got up and spoke first. Naruto. Dono, if you could describe to us everything that happened between the time you left the fortress to charge into the enemy's lines, and the moment you came back on top of your summoning creature with Tsuchikage. Dono. Asked the general of the samurai. With a nod, Naruto summarized the happenings of that period of time. Together with a sizable contingent of Iwagakure's elite Jonin surrounding them, he dealt with Onoki and his guards in their battle, ultimately leading to the death of the Sandaime Tsuchikage. After a few moments, the blonde turned to face Kuretsuchi, who confirmed what she had seen in her grandfather's manner of passing away. Subsequently, Naruto clarified his mistrust of Akatsuki by recounting the events surrounding Onoki's final moments and how the former Kage was unable to recall anything. When Naruto turned to face Mei this time, the Mizukage nodded in agreement and explained that Yagura had experienced the same thing when Naruto had battled him. Then Kuretsuchi informed them of the Sharingan warning she had received. Tsunade got up from her chair and looked out over the audience. The Hokage questioned the lone Sharingan wielder on their side, Kakashi. Is it possible? Can the Sharingan be used to program people of Yagura or Onoki's strength like that? I would normally say no, Hokage. Sama. A regular Sharingan shouldn't be able to produce such results. There are ways to counter its effect for strong people like the previous Kage from Kiri or Iwa. Guy here is quite adept in the ways to counter the effects of the Sharingan. Replied Kakashi, who nodded in agreement. The Raikage asked, normally, explain yourself, Hitaki, since he was also aware of the general information regarding the Sharingan. There is however another level for that Dujutsu, the Mangekyo Sharingan. I don't know about Uchiha Sasuke, but it's pretty certain that his older brother Itachi did achieve that level. I wouldn't be surprised if he had something in his arsenal to ensnare people of higher caliber. The Jonin with silver hair replied. I suppose that you have yourself reached that level, if you're here to talk about it, replied A. After turning to face Tsunade and receiving a nod from her, Kakashi eventually responded. Shocking everyone in the room, Kakashi declared, yes, Raikage. Dono, I did. Mine is still not fully operational though, as I'm not a true Uchiha. My control over it is somewhat lower than what I'd like it to be. To get everyone to agree with him, Mifune said, I think anything else we may say on the subject will remain pure conjectures at this point. Investigations will be necessary. Then Naruto told them about his battle with and victory over the 2 Akatsuki members who had suddenly appeared to stop him and Kuretsuchi from ending the fight. When Tsunade discovered that Kakuzu had battled Senju Hashirama, her grandfather, and Shodem Hokage, she was horrified. When Naruto once more gave them a close-up look at Hidan's head, the other people were equally as shocked. It was the damn missing Nin, still alive, just his head missing. Hidan's remains were given to Konoha, or more specifically Tsunade, because the Godem Hokage was a renowned physician. Her understanding of the human anatomy would come in very handy when they tried to elicit any information from Hidan. Furthermore, the Yamanaka clan of Konoha and their renowned mind reading skills were well known to all. Now that all parties had provided their information, Mifune got back up and continued speaking. It seems everyone here is in agreement that Iwagakure was part of an elaborate scheme from the terrorist group Akatsuki to divide and conquer us. An alliance has already been formed between Kumo, Kiri, Suna and Konoha before the previous battle took place. Will Iwagakure request membership inside the alliance and will the current members of said alliance agree to it, is what I'd like to know now. According to the general, Iwagakure requests entry into the alliance, and even if it wasn't premeditated, I would like to formally offer our deepest apologies for what happened during the previous meeting and the casualties the samurai suffered during the following battle. Kuretsuchi said while bowing in front of her colleagues and Mifune. Sanagakure agrees to Iwagakure's request. Naruto's vouch is all I need to know, Gaara replied. Kirigakure also agrees. Akatsuki's plans must not succeed in turning us against each other, Mei concluded. Konohagakure will also agree. It is highly time we put our past behind us and work together for a better future, Tsunade stated. Once again, the only one hesitating was the Raikage, still grieving over his brother's disappearance. Before he spoke, he took the time to weigh all the advantages and disadvantages. With that statement, the Raikage effectively gave Iwa permission to join the alliance. Kumogakure agrees too. That her grandfather's passing wouldn't be in vain pleased Kuretsuchi. She could get a lead on their enemies and clear his name. For the time being, Iwagakure was safe, and they were even permitted to join the alliance. This is a historical moment. For the first time since the beginning of the shinobi era, every major village has reached an agreement and are willing to fight as allies against a common enemy. Before we go any further though, I would like to point out that for this thing to work, we will need someone to lead the alliance, someone who will inspire strength and confidence to us and fear to our enemies, according to the samurai general. From what I've seen during the meetings and on the battlefield, it is my opinion that this responsibility should befall Uzumaki-san. I know some of you may find him too young to assume such a role, but age has nothing to do with this, Mifune said, shocking a few individuals in the space. He was the one who managed to calm down the men when the battle shifted to the opponent's advantage. He is also the one who helped to put an end to the battle by capturing and killing the true masterminds and bringing back Tsuchikage Dono with him. Finally, he is someone whose purpose is to bring peace to the world. More importantly, he is someone who can inspire others to believe in that dream of his, finished Mifune. Konoha, Suna, Kiri, and Iwa remained silent, accepting that Mifune was correct in his decision. Naturally, they all had a great deal of respect for Naruto because of what he had done to assist them in the past. Since the young Leaf Jonin was the son of that man, it would never have permitted such an incident to occur, but Kumo and the Raikage were still arguing over the matter. Minato Namikaze was highly respected by the Yondaime Raikage, and from what he could see so far, Naruto appeared to be just as respectable as his father. When they sparred briefly at the main gates, the Kase no Kami also greatly impressed him, and he chose to follow his intuition. Mifune could appoint Naruto as the commander-in-chief of the Alliance's forces if all of the leaders accepted his suggestion. The blonde appeared somewhat mortified as all eyes turned to him, anticipating a response of some kind. I am honored to have been tasked to command the combined forces of the Alliance. I think that our first priority is to locate and protect the last Jinchuriki, the younger brother of Raikage Dono, announced Naruto. When acknowledged Naruto as the coalition's leader, he realized he had made the right decision. Iron Country. Conference space. Why not? Damn it. The Raikage angrily exclaimed from his seat. There is no evidence that your brother is in a megacure, Raikage Dono. It is unwise to charge in an unknown territory, even with the combined forces of the Alliance's villages. We don't know for sure who is leading that village nowadays. If it's not Hanzo, then someone even stronger than the man who could take down the Konoha's combined Sannin in their prime is in charge, and that's definitely troublesome news, replied Tsunade, recalling the individual who prevailed over her team in the war. What are your opinions on a megacure, Tsuchikage Dono, Kazekage Dono? Wind and Earth countries share borders with the Land of the Rain. What can you tell us about your neighbor? Asked Naruto. It's the same as with you guys. Their borders are completely closed. They won't allow any outsider to come into their lands, so I'm afraid we don't have any other information about them, replied Kuretsuchi. To the great disappointment of the Raikage, Gaara responded in a similar manner. With everything we have so far, it is my opinion that we should not act only based on suspicion. Do not misunderstand me, Raikage Dono. I also have issues with a megacure. My sensei was murdered there after all, but it is also true that he illegally crossed their borders, Naruto replied. Everyone has to understand that the alliances and my goal is solely to bring peace to this world. We cannot and will not start a war without the good reasons, otherwise we aren't any better than the Akatsuki, and this is not the message we want to pass on to the world, he continued. Unaware that everyone had heard the suffix she had added to the blonde's name, the Mizukage asked, what do you propose we do in that case? Naruto.kun. Natsuki was genuinely annoyed by Mei and her taunting of Naruto, so Naruto had to soothe the vixen in his mindscape once more. Well, I suppose we could. Naruto started to say something, but before he could finish, he abruptly stood up, followed by Yugito and Gaara. Their coordinated movements startled everyone else in the room. Tsunade worried for her blonde subordinate. What is it, Naruto? Yuki, lots of it. I can sense a gigantic source of Yuki, not far from our current position. Jinchuriki-sized Yuki and still rising. It must be your brother, Raikage Dono, and he's fighting someone. We should depart right away and investigate, Naruto replied. Yugito and Gaara nodded in agreement with Naruto's assessment, having also felt the Yuki explosion. The Raikage stood up and said, I'm going, that idiot brother of mine will only listen to me, plus I'm the fastest one here. Not to be put off by the Raikage's claim to be the fastest, Naruto grinned and replied, I'll go too, I'm the one with the most experience against Akatsuki and you'll need me to locate the source of Yuki. Furthermore, I wouldn't be so sure on the speed matter, I'm pretty sure I could give you a run for your money in a speed contest, so I won't slow you down. I told Yugito to get down and that she wasn't coming before she could even move a muscle. Telling his adopted daughter that his choice was final, he left no room for debate. Naruto turned to face Tsunade. She was the Hokage and someone he genuinely respected, even though he was now in command of the Alliance's forces. That was not how he was going to treat her in public. Just as a stopped Yugito from joining them, Tsunade genuinely wanted to stop him from leaving as well, but she was aware that Naruto was unique. She just nodded her head, trusting his judgment, and let the Namikaze clan head follow the Raikage while he let out a heavy sigh. After that, the two men departed right away, with the Raikage trailing behind Naruto. The young Jonin did nothing more than follow Yuki's lead as they raced in the direction of the source. Even after his prior battles, Naruto continued to demonstrate his remarkable speed and lack of signs of fatigue, which had to be acknowledged. With Killer Bee, prior to coincidentally, the cage meeting was taking place inside Iron Country while the Hachibi Jinchuriki was paying a visit to a friend. Seated inside a forest that was as covered in snow as the rest of Iron Country at this time of year, they were talking about a variety of topics. He was visiting Sabu, an Enka music shinobi friend. Sabu was a middle-aged, short man. He had on a cream-colored robe with two fuzzy purple balls hanging in the front and a purple belt. In addition, he had a mesh shirt on underneath his robe and was wearing a purple garment. He wore his dark brown hair in a traditional Japanese style, but the top of his head was a punch perm bun. He carries a massive axe in his hands and is always followed by a gigantic raccoon named Ponta. Two guests, dressed in black robes with red clouds, interrupted B as he was receiving advice on how to perfect his Enka technique. Feeling Kisame and Itachi, B remarked, It's you again, fish. Man. I guess the little present I left you wasn't good enough for you and your friends. Kisame grinned his typical smirk and said, Don't worry, Octopus, we will thoroughly verify the body we're taking in this time. Itachi said nothing. The enormous raccoon rushed in the direction of the Akatsuki couple before they could exchange any more insults. With a single swing, Kisame countered the charging beast, unsheathing his sword before Sabu could stop his partner. Kisami's strength easily overpowered Ponta, and the poor raccoon lay unconscious on the ground. As Sabu prepared to attack and exact revenge on his partner, Itachi unexpectedly released his Sharingan, allowing the Enka master to be swiftly stopped in a mid-range genjutsu. B shot for his fellow Enka comrade, Itachi, but Kisame blocked B's path, so B could only watch from a distance as Itachi approached Sabu slowly and chopped his neck to knock him out. Kisame slowly removed the bandages from his sword and said, Now that the interference is gone, shall we start? Killer B decided to run away from Sabu in an attempt to get some distance before the fight began. I can't fight the both of them here, well I'm their target so they will follow after me. If I go ballistic on them with Hachibi, Sabu and Ponta will get caught in the destruction. Itachi and Kisame pursued B right away, displaying no interest in the enormous raccoon or the Enka singer. The Jinchuriki could have run much farther before deciding to stop and turn around to face his enemies, but he managed to travel quite a distance from his starting point. Itachi said in his typically emotionless voice, Are you ready to come with us? We will not put you through unnecessary pain if you follow us without resisting. Rather than respond, B produced his 7 swords and assumed an odd posture. B grasped his 7 blades between his elbows and under his left armpit, in his right leg, in his stomach, on the right side of his neck, and finally in his mouth. Itachi made the decision to step in when he noticed Kisame hankering to bite the Jinchuriki during a sword fight. We don't have the time to lose around here, Kisame. The cage meeting is being held not far from here, we can't risk exposing ourselves for too long. We'll both attack him at the same time, you take the front, I'll capitalize on any opening he leaves. Announced the Uchiha prodigy and received a companion. Having been a member of the 7 swordsmen of Kiri, Kisame was full of confidence in his kenjutsu skills and wasted no time in charging at B with his Samahata drawn. B was unfazed by Kisami's notoriety and patiently awaited the arrival of the Akatsuki swordsman. Although Kisami's swings were more forceful, B's 7 swords made him unpredictable, making it difficult for Itachi to follow and anticipate his attacks. Thus far, the Uchiha could find no gaps in B's posture. B eventually gained the upper hand after yet another fast-paced Kenjutsu exchange, and Kisame was left with a deep cut on his left shoulder before B kicked him out. Despite his expectation that Kisami's katana would pierce his opponent's body, the Jinchuriki was taken aback when Kisame was able to deflect the blow. Because his swords were charged with lightning chakra, B surmised that the enemy had a method of absorbing his chakra during their battle. As B was contemplating his earlier battle, Itachi, with his Sharingan activated, moved ahead of the Jinchuriki, who momentarily ignored him before attacking. Itachi cried, "Megan! Kasagui no Jutsu," as he met B's eyes. The Sharingan user's illusion world was where the Jinchuriki ended up. He was tormented by the feeling that spikes were driving through his limbs, robbing him of his freedom. B lost his Kenjutsu stance and dropped his swords in the real world. When Itachi saw this, he charged at him, threatening to knock him down, but just in time, B moved out of the way of Itachi's blow. "Lariat!" cried B, abruptly moving from his original stance to throw his Yuki-clad right arm at Itachi. Itachi met the attack almost immediately thanks to B's quickness and his own forward momentum. The Uchiha was able to avoid taking a critical hit due to years of training and combat. At the last second, he was able to move slightly to avoid being fatally wounded by the B's counterattack. How were you able to move? I'm sure I caught you in my genjutsu," asked Itachi. The younger Raikage brother cried out, "I'm a host with perfect control over my Jinchuriki powers, therefore I'm immune to genjutsu, now die," and swung a sword from the ground, slamming it into his wounded opponent. B was pushed aside by Kisame before he could sever Itachi's heart with his sword. The former Kiri Nin was topless and had removed his coat, causing bleeding from his shoulder. Upon glancing at his partner, he realized that if he had to bring the now useless Uchiha along, he would not be able to escape. Now, his only option was to battle and overcome the Jinchuriki. Having made up his mind, Kisame attacked B with a jutsu. Kisame cried out, "Sweden! Dai Bakusu Shoha," as he gushed a great deal of water out of his own mouth. B and Kisame were ensnared inside the enormous bubble that formed out of the water. Kisame uttered the words, "Time to get serious, the stronger my opponent, the stronger I become," just before he inexplicably fused with his sword and assumed the appearance of a human shark hybrid. Viewing the scene from inside the water prison, B's Yuki cloak remained active from the moment he used genjutsu to block Itachi's attempt to attack him. He started to gather more Yuki from his Biju until his cloak was made of all 8 tails. His transformation in the sword's powers, he intends to fight me in this water prison. He most likely has the ability to breathe underwater. I won't last long if I stay inside, he thought to himself. Right now, as soon as Kisame noticed the demonic chakra exploding, he hurried to B's location and began attacking him. When the Jinchuriki attempted to break free from the water bubble, he discovered that it was tracking the movements of its caster. As a result, he would never be able to escape the prison as long as Kisame could follow him. By absorbing more chakra from the Hachibi, the Kirigakure no Kaijin was able to instantly heal any wounds he sustained, giving him the advantage of fighting underwater. This time, he completely controlled the battle. As soon as possible, B had to remove the Yuki cloak because his energy was rapidly running out. Having held his breath throughout the entire struggle inside the Sweden prison, he was also very near to his physical breaking point. As Kisame noticed his opponent's transformation beginning to wear off, he reversed his water prison jutsu. Now, depleted of chakra and stamina, B lay on the ground, beginning to lose consciousness. "So close," the Jinchuriki remarked as Kisame approached him slowly and grinned. The Jinchuriki's smile caught the Kiri missing Nin's attention just as he was ready to take B's body. His eyes widened as he realized what B had just said. "Lariat!" cried a fresh voice as an arm covered in lightning materialized in front of Kisami's throat. A bright white flash illuminated the area a split second later. A second voice called, "Futon! Shinzo Hakai!" as Kisame felt 2 arms pressed against his back. With Kisami's internal organs being destroyed from the inside, Naruto used his newly acquired taijutsu technique to hold his body while he used Naruto's block to chop off the Akatsuki member's head with his Raiden-charged lariat. Kisami's final words before losing his head and experiencing a body explosion were, "So close indeed." The Raikage instantly went to see how his brother was doing, showing no concern for their victim. Seeing that the Jinchuriki was only unconscious gave him a sense of relief. Just as he did with Hidan's and Kakuzu's heads, Naruto took Kisami's and sealed it away. The Leaf Jonin said, "If you don't mind, Raikage. Dono, I'll take this for my growing collection." A simply gave a small laugh at the lighthearted joke and picked up his brother's body. Shortly after that, they departed, not giving a thought to Kisami's body or his sword, and headed back towards the samurai's fortress. After a brief period of travel, the wreckage abruptly came to an end. Naruto turned to face the ground and noticed an odd-looking man perched atop a massive rat or bear. The man said, "Wreckage. Sama. Thank God you found B. I was starting to fear those two had defeated him, when the Yuki slowly disappeared a while ago." Naruto was still attempting to determine the creature's creature type. With a frown, a thought to himself, "Sabu, I should have guessed that idiot would have come to see you." When Naruto eventually snapped out of his reverie, he asked, "Wait a minute, what do you mean those two?" "Yes, the one that looks like a fish, and the Uchiha," Sabu replied, but before he could finish, Naruto had already left. When the blonde returned to the scene of Kisami's death not too long ago, he saw right away that the body and the sword had vanished. Moreover, tracing the tracks left on the snowy surface, he discovered that another lifeless body, heavily wounded, had also been hauled off not too long ago. What the hell? The blonde asked himself, trying to make sense of what had just transpired. Borders of the rice country, some shadows were jumping trees inside Ta no Kuni's boundaries. An unidentified feminine voice said, "Hurry up, Suigetsu. Why the hell did you even bring that huge-ass sword with us anyway?" Another female voice asked, "Do you want me to carry the body for you, Sasuke-kun?" A recognizable voice cried out, "Don't you dare, he's mine, no one is to lay a finger on him." As Uchiha Sasuke and a few of his followers emerged into the open island turtle, when Naruto awoke in a strange bed, he couldn't identify the room he was sleeping in either. He finally realized where he was and why he was getting out of bed. After a quick shower, he changed into his ninja attire and departed the room. When he came downstairs, he discovered that his two new allies were in the kitchen, already awake and ready to fight. "Good morning, Uzumaki-san." As he walked into the kitchen, the first voice spoke. "Good morning to you too, and please, call me Naruto." Naruto answered in his typically upbeat manner. "Sure, as long as you call me Yugito." In response, the woman he was speaking with nodded in Naruto's direction. "B-san, how are you feeling? Have your wounds healed up yet?" the other person in the room was asked by Naruto. "I'm feeling great, kid. How about you? Are you ready to start your Jinchuriki training?" Murder Bee questioned Naruto. Actually, Naruto was considering what to say next and how he got into this predicament. Rewind. Cage gathering the wreckage and a still conscious Bee made the decision to return to the samurai's fortress, where the other Cage were waiting for them, after Naruto joined them. Naruto informed everyone about the battle and their successful rescue of Killer Bee from Kisame and Itachi when they got there. Before he returned to check on Itachi, he disclosed that the missing ninjas' bodies and equipment had been mysteriously taken. What comes next? We chose not to attack a Megacure in the absence of strong proof. Other than waiting for them to target one of us first, what other option do we have? Kuretsuchi was asked. "Prepare ourselves to war, share our resources and information to get everything we can about Akatsuki," said Gaara. "Let's get together again in a month so we have time to make the necessary plans. I'm sure that each of us has to report the latest events to the council that represents us," Mei continued. Naruto abruptly got up before Mifune could declare the meeting to be over. "Wreckage. Dono, I'd like to ask a favor." The A nodded to the young Leaf Jonan's statement. "Now that we managed to find B-san, I would like to request for him to teach me how to control my powers as a Jinchuriki. I'm well aware that he has a perfect mastery over his own powers," said Naruto. "Well, but a secret base is not the appropriate location for this kind of training. I would like to keep it that way because not many people, even in Kumogakure, are aware of its existence. You are welcome to accompany us, but I can't let the world know where you'll be receiving instruction," he answered. Before Tsunade could object, hating that she wouldn't know where Naruto was, the recently appointed leader of the alliance spoke once more. "I accept your conditions, thank you very much." Following his statement to the wreckage, he went to speak with Tsunade. "Are you sure about this, Naruto?" asked, a worried expression on the Hokage's face. "Don't worry, Ba-chan. I think I can rely on them. This is for Ero Sennin and his dream. Let's work together to realize it." The Uzumaki answered his lone surviving relative. Reluctantly, Tsunade allowed him to leave with the Kumo Nins after he brought up the old pervert. It was a reasonable topic for them both to discuss. Before Tsunade and her two bodyguards could depart, the delegations from Suna, Kiri, and Iwa had already left. Naruto stopped them and proceeded to use hand signals. "Ninpo. Kachiyose no Jutsu," he shouted. Out of the smoke materialized a tiny dragon, which Naruto gave to Tsunade. "This is Ryuban, a dragon of the messenger class. Take him with you. In the event of an emergency, you can reach me through him," says Naruto to his cage. After accepting the little summoned creature, Tsunade departed with her escort to return to Konoha. Finale flashback: Yugito was following along on his orders to prevent Naruto and Bee from killing each other when they arrived on the island yesterday. She was one of the few people who could control Bee when he went too far, and her flawless control over her Jinchuriki abilities also helped. They chose to go to bed early because it was already late when they got off the boat that had brought them there. "Well, I can already control all the 9 tails of Yuki from my Biju," Naruto acknowledged. "You what?" With a frown on his face, Bee yelled back at Yugito. After that, Naruto revealed to them their mateship and related his story with Natsuki. "You're planning to release it, aren't you?" Yugito was shocked once more by the Hachibi Jinchuriki's statement. At Killer Bee's words, Naruto's eyes grew wide, shocked that he had already deduced his true motivations. "Yes, I do, and let me remind you that it's not it, but her. Kyuubi's real name is Natsuki," said Naruto. After a lengthy pause, it was clear that Yugito and Killer Bee were questioning their respective Bijus regarding Naruto's assertions. There was silence for a few more minutes, and then Yugito spoke first. "Very well, Nibi, or should I say Matabi, has confirmed that what you said about Natsuki is true," says she. "Yuki says hello as well. However, how do you even plan to free her without losing your own life in the process?" Killer Bee inquired. "The Jinchuriki will receive a certain quantity of Yuki along with the associated distribution system when a Biju is sealed inside a human being. We will perish if someone tries to take the Yuki from our bodies by force because our bodies will adjust to it. It would be equivalent to totally draining a human of all chakra. Humans cannot survive without chakra, and we Jinchuriki are unable to survive without Yuki." Naruto got going. "That's where you people are useful. Once I destroy my Shiki Fusion, the surge of Yuki will be contained by a new seal that I've created. You guys have complete control over your individual Yuki, so when you combine your abilities, you should be able to contain Natsuki's powers. This will power the seal." Naruto came to an end. "But what will happen to Natsuki if you keep the Yuki inside your body?" Yugito inquired. "After I destroy the Shiki Fusion, Natsumi will regain her physical form, but she won't be a Biju anymore. She will, I suppose, become more like us Jinchuriki, not human, but also not immortal, though I'm not sure what degree of Yuki she will possess after that." She wanted to move forward despite being fully aware of these facts. In response, Naruto spoke. "Would you be able to do the same for me too?" Yugito inquired once more, startling even Bee. "I'm not sure, we don't have the same Jinchuriki seal, but I could look into it if you want," Naruto informed her. After that, they dedicated the majority of the day to preparing the unsealing ritual. Yugito and Bee set up the room and rested their bodies, while Naruto had to sketch an incredibly complicated-looking seal on the ground. "I think we'll call it a day today. The seal is ready, but I'm a little worn out, both mentally and physically. If all is well with you guys, we'll go ahead and unseal tomorrow." As he rose from his lying position, Naruto spoke. After giving Naruto a nod, Yugito and Bee turned to head back towards the cabin they were using as a makeshift home on the island. They all went to bed early. The meal was consumed in silence, and Bee even stopped rapping. The mindscape of Naruto that night, just after he fell asleep, the young blonde materialized in his realm of consciousness. He hurried to the house he had drawn for Natsuki, only to discover that she was already there, waiting for him at the door. She rushed over to him right away and gave him a jaw-dropping hug. "Hi Na-chan, it's finally time." When Naruto saw the vixen, he exclaimed with joy. He always looked forward to seeing her, regardless of how worn out or depressed he was. "Are you sure you want to move forward, Naru-kun? I'm genuinely concerned for you, not for myself. I don't want to give up my freedom in order to keep you." With tears welling up in her stunning crimson eyes, Natsuki responded. "You'll have to have faith in me because I've spent the better part of my life working hard and preparing for this. It has been my dream to be able to hold you in the real world ever since I fell in love with you. I want this more than I want to become a Hokage, or even more than I want to make the world peaceful. You must have the same faith in us that I have in us." In response, Naruto gave Natsuki a gentle kiss on the corners of her eyes to wipe away her tears. "You've really become skilled with the words Naru-kun. I believe in you, in us." Natsuki grinned and said. "Are you sure you don't mind losing your immortality? Once we proceed you will become immortal just like me and you could die?" Naruto inquired. I would rather live and die knowing that I could hold and love you in the real world than live forever as a ghost inside a seal. Natsuki comfortingly informed him. Then there's only one thing left for me to do. Naruto spoke, then carefully withdrew from the embrace. With deliberate slowness, the blonde dropped to one knee and grasped Natsuki's left hand. I know we already consider ourselves as each other's mates, but I would like to take this moment to formally tell you what's been in my mind and in my heart for quite some time now. Natsuki nodded in response to him, and he began. Naruto. I don't know where or what I would have become if you hadn't always been there for me. I want to be by your side no matter what happens once we step foot in the real world because I love you with all of my heart. Would you please grant me the honor of being married, Natsuki? Naruto inquired. Hi, I would love to become your wife Namikaze Uzumaki. Naruto. This time, Natsuki answered through happy tears in her eyes. I apologize for not having a ring for you, however, since we are in my mindscape, I didn't want to make a ring that you wouldn't wear when you left. But I'm capable of doing this. As he began to gather chakra with his finger and transfer it to Natsuki's left hand, Naruto spoke. Before long, a seal materialized on her finger, marking the location of the engagement ring. It was circular in shape and, to someone observing it from a distance, looked exactly like a ring. This is a modified Hiraishin. The other portion of the seal is also on my finger. No matter how far apart we are, we can instantly transport ourselves to each other with it. We may no longer be connected by the Shiki fusion, but we will still be able to instantly contact each other with this seal even after it is unsealed starting tomorrow. Naruto informed her. This is even better than any ring in the world. I love you so much and I can't wait to hold you in my arms, stated Natsuki. After that, they gave each other another hug and spent the rest of the evening making out and discussing their future together. She spoke with him once more before he left. You know you're still gonna have to buy me that ring when the unsealing is done, right? With a smile that conveyed her seriousness to her future husband, Natsuki said. Of course, my love. As he ventured out of his mindscape for the final time, Naruto laughed. A Megacure Zetsu claimed that in addition to Hidan and Kakuzu, Tobi or Madara was unhappy with the recent events since they had also lost Itachi and Kisame. In addition, Iwagakure was able to restore diplomatic ties with the other principal towns because of their recently appointed Tsuchikage and the mediator Uzumaki Naruto. He had watched the two of them survive some terrible things and did not believe it was possible for either of them to pass away, so the loss of the immortal combo came as a surprise. But losing Itachi and, even worse, Kisame was a significant blow to his plans. Additionally, he had intended to use Iwa as a forward thinking base for his army once the chaos and fallout from the cage meeting were made public, but at this point, it was highly unlikely because he was aware that a Megacure's forces would not be sufficient. Zetsu had filled him in on every detail of the two fights, including how the Kyuubi Jinchuriki defeated Kakuzu and Hidan on their own. He listened to the report about Naruto's latest abilities in silence, cursing his ignorance of them. Next, he discovered that Itachi was taken aback by Killer Bee's Genjutsu immunity, and at last, he discovered that Kisame was defeated by the combined might of the Yondaime Reikage and Uzumaki Naruto once more. After giving the matter some thought, the genuine Akatsuki mastermind had one idea. The unifying theme is Uzumaki Naruto. For a while, Nagato and his plan to use him worked well, but now we have a monster, and I'm not even sure how strong his true powers are, Tobi stated. The Nibi, Hachibi, and I lost sight of him as soon as they entered Lightning Country. Though he is back in Sanagakure and hasn't left since, I still have a clone following the Kazekage, according to Zetsu. Transmit the following orders to Nagato. I will assign him the mission to take on the Ichibi while I go secure another alliance for us. Zetsu nodded in response to Toba's words before fading into the earth. The Hokage office in Konoha, though not at the highest level of alert, Konoha was under a state of emergency. The highest one was martial law, which was only imposed when there was an active conflict. Tsunade had instituted protocols and exercises to prepare the village for an enemy attack. Her new approach was to prepare for the worst-case scenario while maintaining optimism. Higher-level ninja were now only allowed to complete missions outside of the village, and missions outside of Fire Country were outright rejected. To establish their readiness and proficiency, reserve soldiers were gradually drafted in. Now that the Hokage was required to attend council meetings nearly every day, she was taken aback to discover Yuhi Kurenai, a young Jonin Kunoichi, sitting in the Namikaze clan's seat. Yuhi was chosen by the clan's head, Naruto, to fill in for him while he was away. Kurenai, who was self-assured, self-reliant, and never gave in front of the civilian council, did a fantastic job representing her former pupil in the council. After the cage meeting, Tsunade allowed her thoughts to wander to Naruto and whether it was a wise decision to allow him to depart with the Kumo delegation. Shizun's abrupt entry into her office left her with little time to consider the situation. Tsunade. Sama, I know that sounds like deja vu, but you need to take a look at this, again. As she was given a bingo book, her disciple spoke. Knowing right away which section to open, she went straight to Naruto's profile page. It said. Name. Namikaze Uzumaki. Naruto. Nickname. Konohasuke's no Kami. Kiri's 8th Blade Leader of the Shinobi Alliance. Age. 16. Rank. SS Status. Jonin Attributes. Kenjutsu, S. Ninjutsu, S. Genjutsu, S. Taijutsu, S. And Fuinjutsu, S. Affinities. Wind Bloodline. Unknown description. Has a very high affinity to the wind element. Sage of the Mythical Dragon Summoning Contract. Casts Unbreakable Genjutsu. Member of Kirigakure's 8 Swordsman, son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. Defeated A-rank Kiri Nukanen Momochi Zabuza the Kirigakure no Kijin. Defeated Sabaku no Gara the Suna's Ichibi Jinchuriki. Defeated S-rank Konoha Nukanen Uchiha Itachi the Sharingan Prodigy. Defeated S-rank Iwa Nukanen Deidara the Mad Bomber. Defeated S-rank Kiri Yondaime Mizuka Yagura the Sanbi's Jinchuriki. Defeated S-rank Iwa Sandame Tsuchikage Onoki the Fence Sitter. Defeated S-rank Taki Nukanen Kakuzu the Immortal Heart Stealer. Defeated S-rank Yuga Nukanen Hidan the Immortal Jashinist. Defeated S-rank Kiri Nukanen Hoshigaki Kisame the Kirigakure no Kaijin Action. Flee on Sight Bounty. 100 million Ryo in auto and aim dead or alive. So the whole world knows about the survival of the Yondaime Hokage's son now, Tsunade said.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.